Chapter 631. There was no reaction for a long time. There was nothing in front of her. Not to mention a ferocious beast, not even a tiny sparrow could be seen flying. The garden was still full of wintersweet blossoms and evergreen pines and cypresses, but because it was too cold, all the living creatures had shrunk back into their nests. Whoa! Another failure. Arbor threw the ebony talisman into the snow and stomped on it twice to vent her anger. Only then did she angrily run to the Crown Prince's side, allowing him to wrap his arms around her. "Hey, miss, the patterns on this talisman have lost their color." Xiao Yao ran up and picked up the ebony talisman from the snow, shaking it. When Miss first took out the talisman, the ebony was clearly engraved with strange blue patterns. But now, the blue patterns on this piece of wood were gone, leaving only a few faint grayish-brown rune patterns. That's right. This means that the talisman was activated successfully. But nothing was summoned. Just like before, nothing could be summoned. Arbor was furious. Her small hand tugged at the Crown Prince's long hair that hung in front of her eyes as she angrily pouted. Let's go back. The Crown Prince couldn't help but laugh. Holding her small hand, he turned around and walked towards the bedchamber. "Jojo, don't be anxious. Just because you can't summon it now doesn't mean you can't summon it in the future. You're still young. Summoning Blue Wand as an intermediate-level talisman master isn't in accordance with the rules in the first place." Arbor pursed her small mouth noncommittally. "Caw." The weak chicken also shook its feathers, looking smug with its head held high and chest puffed out. "Forget it, you can't force anything." The little fellow listlessly drooped her head. "Jojo, I returned the batch of medical books last time and also brought you a few unique copies. Do you want to go back and take a look?" "Okay." Arbor's footsteps paused, and she looked up at him. "The old royal physician is willing to give you such precious unique medical books." Of course he wasn't willing to give them. But was there any use in not giving them? Humph. Cough. The Crown Prince coughed lightly with a clenched fist, and Hui Feng immediately said from the side, "Rest assured, Crown Princess, His Highness the Crown Prince neither snatched nor stole." Those were all brought over to have a look after discussing with the old imperial physician. Besides, the Crown Princess flipped through the books very quickly. She would send the books back to them in no time. The old imperial physicians were very reassured and fought to send it to the Crown Prince Consort. As if. That's good then. Xiao Mu nodded. Your father has so many concubines in the 3 palaces and 6 courtyards. Those old grandpas are already so old. They usually have to treat the concubines in various palaces and courtyards. It's quite tiring. Don't bully them for no reason. The Crown Prince made a muffled sound and coughed twice. His face was serious, and it was impossible to tell that under his gentle appearance, there was a little devil's heart hidden. Sigh. Imperial Physician Chao is crying so much today that he couldn't let his darling know that he bullied an Imperial Physician. Emichim, he would send something over to Imperial Physician Chao tomorrow to express his condolences. Not long after the group left, the snowy ground where Arbor was originally standing suddenly moved, and a small snow bump appeared. Darling Chao spent the day very leisurely. She read books for half a day and occasionally stared blankly at the Crown Prince's serious expression as he read through the memorials. It wasn't until after dinner that the Crown Prince silently took the cloak handed to him by a royal maid and pitifully glanced at Xiao Mu. I'm leaving, Xiao. After saying this, he shuffled away like a turtle, his back lonely and pitiful as he walked outside into the cold wind and snow. Our dear Xiao Mu calmly looked at the sky full of snow outside and suddenly said, "Why don't you stay here and sleep? See you tomorrow, okay?" Chapter 632. Clang. The sound of Weifeng banging against the door abruptly rang out. Then, His Highness the Crown Prince kicked him out of the door, and he rolled into the snow without a sound. That with his back to our dear Chiao Mu, the Crown Prince's eyes suddenly lit up like twinkling stars. Stabilizing his facial expression, the Crown Prince turned his head to look at his Chow Chow. His phoenix eyes were slightly watery. Chow Chow, really? It's snowing too heavily outside. It won't be convenient for you to walk over. Arbor's face was solemn as she walked to the Crown Prince's side and held his hand. You sleep on your own bed, I'll sleep on the couch. No need, no need. You sleep on the bed, I'll sleep on the couch. Mo Lien hugged the little fellow and lowered her head to rub against her neck, beaming with joy as she revealed her porcelain-white teeth. After the two of them washed up, they snuggled together and whispered to each other for a while. Arbor suddenly thought of something and asked, I heard that great bandit Ding Ting Ding stole something from Consort Cheng. Do you know what it is? The Crown Prince coughed awkwardly. I don't know. You definitely know. Seeing his expression, Arbor knew that he was hiding something, so she poked his waist. Hurry and tell me. You said before that you'll tell me everything you know, so you can't hide anything. What kind of hiding was this? The Crown Prince groaned inwardly. He just didn't want to mention Yung He's lousy incident. What is it? Seeing the Crown Prince's expression, the more secretive it was, the more curious darling Chow became, and she couldn't help but sound a bit coquettish. Mo Lien's heart was about to melt from this little fellow's cuteness, but her expression was a bit awkward. She hugged the little fellow and whispered into her ear, Ding Ting Ding stole Yung He's. Her voice trailed off, but darling Chow's eyes suddenly widened. She opened her mouth and yelled, What? He actually stole Yung He's belly. The Crown Prince hastily covered her yelling mouth, silencing the little rascal's pocket from her lips. The two of them looked at each other and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ding Ting Ding is too deceitful. No wonder Yung He views him as a mortal enemy and immediately went to the second prince's estate to capture him. You don't know. The Crown Prince was also a bit angry at the mention of Ding Ting Ding, who would enter every nook and cranny. This stinking bug likes to send invitations before stealing. Chiao Mu widened her pair of watery eyes, looking as if she had not heard this. What? He even sent an invitation to courtesan Jing, saying that he was going to steal her belly. Chiao Mu whispered into the Crown Prince's ear. Ting ding ting ding ting ding ting ding ting ding. Back then, his father had ordered the imperial army to guard the perimeter of Sephora Flower Palace, but even so, that person was still able to come and go as he pleased. I suspect that he either used some kind of special talisman or had some kind of amazing disguise technique, the Crown Prince said with a smile. From then on, Yung He hated this person to the core. He's quite interesting. Arbor nodded and expressed his opinion. Crown Prince Mo immediately turned vigilant. He cupped her small face and gazed at his darling. I'm telling you, this person is really ugly. With a green face and fangs, he didn't seem like a good person. You can't interact with him, you know. Good boy. Chiao Mu rolled her eyes at him. Why should I interact with him? I don't even know him. Chapter 633. Yes, my Jojo is the most obedient. The Crown Prince was very happy and rubbed his face against her soft little face. Go to sleep. Wake up early tomorrow to cultivate. You've been lazy for a few days, haven't you? Arbor puffed up her little cheeks. She had been stuck at a bottleneck for the past few days anyway, so it didn't matter if she cultivated or not. The Crown Prince rubbed her little face in amusement and put her on the big bed. He pulled the blanket over her and leaned over to whisper, All right, go to sleep. Arbor closed her eyes, but couldn't help but secretly open one eye to glance at him. She thought that with another person in the room, she wouldn't be able to sleep. Who knew that she would be so careless that she fell into a deep sleep after a while. Sleeping until midnight, Arbor felt her little hand itch, as if something was rubbing against her arm. "Stop fooling around." Arbor waved her hand, but that soft and cool rubbing feeling was intermittent. Her neck started to itch. Arbor forced her eyes open and squinted to take a look. At first, she only saw a faint shadow swaying slightly, but when she saw the thing in front of her clearly, she felt a chill all over her body. Instantly, clusters of small goosebumps appeared on her arms. My dear mother, anyone who opened their eyes half asleep and saw a snake as thick as a thumb beside their pillow would be so disgusted that their soul would scatter. Even if this snake was white and slender, with a pure gold 5-star crown on its small round head, it looked extremely beautiful. Even her pair of watery and round amber eyes revealed an adorable and fawning look. Just this alone scared baby Chow half to death. She screamed and jumped up on the spot. Without thinking, she pounced towards the Crown Prince's brocade bed and crashed into his embrace. She hooked her arms around his neck, wishing that she could shrink into his body and completely hide herself. Poor Prince Mo, he was caught off guard. He heard Jojo's cry and was about to sit up when the little fellow pounced on him. He was caught off guard and was pushed to the ground by the little thing. Both of them lost their balance and rolled onto the thick plush carpet, lying on top of each other in a strange position. In the blink of an eye, a loud bang was heard. Xiao Yao rushed into the bedroom to protect the Empress and shouted, "Young miss, don't be afraid. Xiao Yao is here." Behind him, a large group of palace maids and eunuchs followed in. They all carried sticks and shovels in their hands and looked around vigilantly. Thus, he saw his own crown princess and crown prince's unique style. Their upper bodies were on the ground, but their legs were still on the brocade couch. The crown prince's arms were wrapped around the crown princess. His expression couldn't be seen as he was pinned under her. They guessed that the crown prince's mood wouldn't be too good when a group of people came in. That handsome face of his was probably completely black now. Xiao Yao's mouth twitched. She didn't care about anything else and hurriedly ran forward to help Arbor up. She had to protect her master loyally. She definitely couldn't let her master be bullied by the crown prince. Arbor was helped up with a dazed expression. He even stepped on the crown prince's foot in the process. Xiao Yao covered her face and didn't dare to look at the crown prince's expression. "Young miss, are you all right?" Xiao Yao asked in concern. "Don't be afraid. His Highness is just a little anxious. He doesn't have any bad intentions. Please forgive him." The crown prince stood up with a dumbfounded expression. He looked around and realized that the group of palace maids and eunuchs had the same thoughts as Xiao Yao. They were all secretly looking at him with strange expressions. Chapter 634. Your Highness, the crown princess is still young. Don't bully her. Xiao Yao whispered. These words sounded like he was in a hurry. Crown Prince Mo felt like he was at a loss for words. Are you all blind? Can't you see that it was your crown princess who threw herself at me? All right, you can all leave. The crown prince took the little fellow's hand from Xiao Yao's and chased them out. Can't you see that his baby's eyes are still hazy? It's obvious that she still wants to sleep. A bunch of ignorant people chattering here. It'll be dawn soon. Jojo, did you have a nightmare? The crown prince held her little hand and carried her to the bed. Sleep a little more. It's all right, it's just a dream. Snake, there's a snake. Arbor hooked her arms around his neck and refused to let go. No matter what, she didn't want to sleep on the bed again. Snake. The crown prince hurried forward and checked the inside and outside of the bed. He didn't find anything. The Eastern Palace was cleaned every day. It was always dry and tidy. How could there be a snake? But the little fellow wouldn't speak without thinking. If she said there was a snake, she must have seen it with her own eyes. Don't worry. Mo Lien carried the little fellow back to the bed by the window. You sleep here first. I'll look around again. Arbor was really sleepy. She fell asleep as soon as her head touched the pillow. It was just that he was frightened halfway through, so he couldn't sleep well. It wasn't until a pair of warm hands brushed her face that Arbor fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, while half asleep, Arbor had a strange dream. In the dream, she saw the little snake slithering in the snow for a while. There was a bulging bag on its head. It looked back at her, its watery eyes full of grievances and pity. The word summon was faintly discernible under its slanted crown. Summon beast. Arbor woke up with a start. Arbor's small hand slammed onto a bulging package, and he was slightly startled. Looking down, wasn't it the floral cloth package that the little snake carried on its belly in his dream? The little guy quivered and his legs trembled as he kicked the bundle off the couch. The opening of the package loosened, and something fell out of the floral cloth package. Gold, silver, jade wares, jade inkstones, incense paper, pearls, emeralds, corals, agates, ambers, ivory, and all kinds of colorful gems. My God, this seemingly unremarkable flower cloth package actually had a hidden treasure inside. Half of the treasures in the palace's treasury had been moved here. Our dear Chow Mu sat on top of a pile of jewelry that was getting taller and taller. She looked at the jadeite and jade jewelry that was still pouring out of her bag with a stupefied expression. She simply didn't know what to say. Miss. Xiao Yao excitedly walked in. Then, her eyes widened and she hurriedly turned around to close the door. This. Miss. Where did this come from? Why did it seem like there was no end to these gold, silver, and jewelry that were still piling up endlessly? Arbor was startled awake by Xiao Yao's shout. She hurriedly stood up from the pile of jewelry and hurriedly tidied it up. With great difficulty, she stuffed these things back into that ugly floral cloth package and cleaned up the room. The master and servant looked at each other in dismay, their faces full of confusion. Miss, this is a Cosmos treasure pouch, right? Legend has it that only divine weapon masters can make this kind of treasure pouch. Where did Miss get it? Arbor opened her mouth. Chapter 635. What could she say? Say that she dreamed of a white snake carrying this ugly package, but when she opened her eyes, it was right next to her. Wasn't this a fantasy? Who would believe this story? Even she herself didn't believe it. Xiao Yao. This can't be something from the great king's private storehouse, right? Arbor asked in a hushed voice. Xiao Yao's mouth twitched. Master, Xiao Yao also hasn't been to the great king's private storehouse. But looking at these jewels and accessories, each one is precious and valuable. The value shouldn't be low. Then what do we do now? Arbor turned to look at her. Of course we put it away. Xiao Yao looked around furtively, then hurriedly stuffed the package into her arms. It's fine, little master. Put it in your inner world. No one will know. Even if the great king's private storehouse is stolen, no one will be able to search your inner world. Also, how do we know why this package is here? Maybe it's another scheme of that evil woman, Consort Zhang. If we take it out and get caught red-handed, then wouldn't we be unable to explain ourselves? After Xiao Yao finished speaking, she pulled her little master and ran behind the heavy curtains. Hurry and put it away, little master. Consort Zhang was the scapegoat again. Arbor thought about it and decided not to put it away. It was too eye-catching to leave such a big package outside. But if she put it away, her little body trembled from the depths of her heart when she thought of that white snake with a round and bald head. Thinking of that cold and soft touch from last night, her entire body felt uncomfortable. With a move of his profound sense, the Cosmos treasure pouch fell into his inner world. The pouch opened and flipped over. Like golden pearls and jade pearls falling into a jade basin, a large pile of items fell behind the original mountain of treasures, forming another high slope. Arbor used his mystic sense and moved a red coral as tall as a person into the room. Master and servant sighed in amazement as they circled the coral tree. After admiring it for a long time, they finally looked at each other. "Young master, forgive me for speaking bluntly, but I feel that even the great king's private vault would not be able to find a more perfect red coral than this. Look at this crystal clear." Xiao Yao clicked her tongue in wonder. "This is the best red coral." Arbor looked at it a few more times with emotion, and then put it away. "Xiao Yao, after the small banquet that day, the queen gave me a lot of jewelry as compensation. There is a box of beaded flowers, and the style is very suitable for you young people. Why don't you share it with the palace maids?" After saying that, she pulled Xiao Yao to the dressing table, took out a brocade box, and handed it to Xiao Yao. Xiao Yao was speechless. The crown princess was clearly younger than them, but sometimes she spoke like an elder, making people feel very uncomfortable. Also, the crown princess is the only one who dares to say something like compensation. "Many thanks to young miss for the reward." Xiao Yao did not expose her and only smiled as she accepted the gift. After helping Arbor wash up and eat, Xiao Yao pulled the palace maids to the courtyard to choose and distribute the beaded flowers. For the entire afternoon, the Eastern Palace was filled with cheerful laughter, as if it was the new year ahead of time. Arbor read the medical book for the entire afternoon. When she turned around, she told the crown prince to quickly return the book. At night, the snow finally stopped. The two of them chatted until late at night. They agreed to wait for the crown prince to finish dealing with state affairs tomorrow before returning home together. Arbor threw the ugly empty cloth bag to the side and went to sleep. At night, when she was half asleep, she heard some rustling sounds. She suddenly opened a pair of cold eyes. Chapter 636. She saw a candlestick in the corner of the sleeping chamber slightly swaying with a faint yellow halo. But Arbor's gaze fell on the ground. That Cosmos treasure pouch was gone. Xiao Mu vigilantly looked back and forth, but she didn't see any trace of that white snake. Only then did she close her eyes and listen for a while more. Only when she saw that there were no more strange sounds in the bedchamber did she drift off to sleep. Xiao Mu only lazily crawled out of bed when it was close to noon the next day. When her feet stepped off the bed, she kicked a round and bulging package. She was so shocked that she hurriedly retracted her legs. She lowered her head and saw that the extremely ugly floral package had returned. "It can't be, right?" Arbor stretched out her foot and kicked that package. That white snake couldn't have brought her something again in the middle of the night, right? She quickly got up, squatted down, opened the bag, and threw it. Waves of exotic fragrance wafted over. Looking carefully, one after another, exotic flowers and herbs rolled out of the package, their fragrance assailing her nostrils. Although the quantity was not as exaggerated as yesterday's pile of jewelry, the quality was eye-opening. These were all precious herbs. Arbor's interest was piqued. She squatted on the ground and flipped through this and that, clicking her tongue in wonder. When Xiao Yao came in, she saw her little master squatting in front of a pile of flowers and herbs. Her fingers were quickly flipping through them, and the corners of her mouth were actually holding a long-lost smile. "Miss, it's time to eat." Xiao Yao called out twice. Seeing that she did not respond, she could not help but curiously run over to take a look. "Miss, why is this Cosmos treasure pouch stuffed with so many herbs again? If I say that it's a gift from a white snake, you definitely won't believe me. The little fellow pursed her lips. This time, without any consideration, she directly let Little Tree keep all these herbs. There were also many medicinal seeds mixed in, and she instructed Little Tree to plant them all. Previously, she was still worried that there were not many medicinal ingredients in Paradise Planet that she could take out. Now, it was all good. She had a lot of medicinal ingredients. Just now, she saw that there were 2 or 3 herbs that could be refined into level 11 mystic breakthrough pills. She planned to refine a few to comfort herself. The only thing he lacked was a suitable medicinal cauldron. That day at the Elixir Appreciation Conference in front of the Wuruan Elixir store, he had been too busy to attend. It should have already ended by now. He had really missed the opportunity to find a good medicinal cauldron. She sighed as she arranged the flowers and plants. After having a simple meal, she wandered back and forth in the bedroom, asking Xiao Yao from time to time, "When will Mo Lian come back?" Xiao Yao covered her mouth and chuckled. "The Crown Prince should be back soon. His Highness agreed to return to the Marquis' estate with you, so naturally he won't go back on his word." Arbor nodded and asked someone to bring a pen and paper over. He spread out a piece of white paper and started writing on it. A quarter of an hour later, when Mo Lian walked into the bedchamber, he saw his little one holding a brush and standing in front of the table in deep thought, her eyes fixed on the paper on the table. He walked over to take a look and saw 3 lines of delicate handwriting written from right to left. Jiang Shubi's shadow like a startled swan hen. Changkong Hao can compare to falling moon. Mo Lian stooped down and moved his head closer to look at those 3 lines of characters. Suddenly, he picked up the brush and circled 3, 3, 3, a total of 9 characters on the paper. Hen Jiang can long sparse forest shadow moon temple. Isn't that near Bailon fortifications? Arbor jumped up, almost knocking into his chin. He abruptly turned around and hugged him, exclaiming, "Mo Lian. You're so awesome." "What?" Mo Lian was baffled. Chapter 637. Prince Mo lowered his head and glanced at the little fellow. What was so amazing about this? In order to choose a suitable city to build fortifications of various sizes, Prince Mo knew all the remote corners of the entire country like the back of his hand. Arbor put down the pen, folded the paper neatly, and stuffed it into her pocket. Only then did she raise her head to look at him. "Do you know what Startled Swan is?" This Startled Swan is the key to opening a secret inheritance realm. And this Startled Swan should be at the place you mentioned just now. The 3 sentences she had written on the paper just now were the message the mysterious woman had left for her in the Jade Sound Transmission Talisman she had used talisman energy to open earlier. The message said, she was able to obtain this Jade Talisman because she was fated with it. As for whether she was fated with Startled Swan or even the secret inheritance realm, that was unknown. Startled Swan. Mo Lian murmured, "Could it be that Startled Swan dagger?" "You know." Arbor's eyes lit up, becoming more and more curious. About 10 years ago, a group of relatively powerful Great Spirit Masters from Shantian Prefecture came down and pursued a woman with all their might. Mo Lian searched through some damaged ancient records in her mind. It said that the woman's cultivation was especially strong. I reckon that she might have already broken through to the Great Spirit Master realm. However, in our place, her cultivation would be unlimitedly suppressed to the profound realm. Then those people from Shantian Prefecture wouldn't be suppressed. Little Jojo pursed her lips, and for some reason, her heart was filled with a thick sense of anger. Now that she heard the words Shantian Prefecture, she had the urge to tear them apart with her own hands. They would. Mo Lian's voice paused slightly. However, according to the remnant records, a portion of the people from Shantian Prefecture should have used some kind of secret technique, causing their realms to only be suppressed to the beginning stages of the spirit realm, which is about the same as a 4th-level spirit master. Shantian Prefecture and that female senior had a huge battle in the Western Territories. According to many records, the reason why the Western Wilderness is so desolate, where not even a blade of grass can grow, is because that battle back then was extremely tragic. Tens of thousands of people besieged that female senior. Arbor's blood boiled when he heard this. Tens of thousands of people. That mysterious woman had single-handedly turned the situation around. How arrogant and conceited was that? Praise also appeared in Mo Lian's eyes. That senior is very formidable. She withstood the attacks of 10,000 people with her suppressed level 15 great mystic cultivation. It was said that the startling swan dagger had once soared into the sky and burrowed into the earth, setting a record of 3,000 kills. No spiritual tool or divine tool could compare to this record. Arbor felt as if she was listening to a fairy tale. Her face turned slightly red, and she couldn't help but open her mouth slightly. Mo Lian saw how cute she was and couldn't help but pinch her cheeks lightly. She smiled and said, "In addition, Senior also has a super strong beast. It had a robust body and the strength to move mountains and rivers. It was shaped like a giant rat and had 13 giant tails, each of which had the ability to split a mountain peak. People call it the White Emperor Holy Beast." One woman and one beast fought alone, and in the end, they actually killed more than 9,000 people from Shantian Prefecture. Arbor let out a long exclamation. Senior escaped in the end, and after that, her whereabouts were unknown. Mo Lian reached out to pick up the little fellow. "Alright, now that you've finished listening to the story, tell me about those 3 lines you wrote just now." It should have been left behind by that senior. Arbor told Mo Lian everything about the jade listening talisman. Mo Lian's eyes couldn't help but light up. But why would the startling swan dagger be kept in Shadow Moon Temple? Today's end. Chapter 638. Arbor shook her head. "I don't know. I'm afraid that we will only know when we go. It just so happens that Balon's soil has grown a batch of edible things. I was just considering going to take a look." The Crown Prince smiled. "When the snow melts, let's go together." Arbor thought of the flourishing fruits and vegetables growing on Paradise Planet, but after some consideration, she didn't say anything. Although Paradise Planet was large, the food there wasn't enough to provide for all of Northern Mo. It was right for the Crown Prince to place so much importance on the food that Balon had grown. After all, they had to tackle the root of the problem to solve the people's livelihood. However, if they transplanted the plants on Paradise Planet, she didn't know if there would be any special growth effects. She could give this a try. While Arbor was pondering, she felt a cool breeze hit her in the face. The Crown Prince had already wrapped a cloak around her and carried her out the door. The carriage stopped at the door, and the two felt warm and cozy as soon as they boarded it. A small stove had already been set up in the carriage, and 2 cups of hot tea were emitting white steam. Mo Lian reached out to remove the cloak for her, revealing her tender face. He smiled and rubbed his head against her forehead. "Jojo, you can't come back with me when we go back today. You have to let me hug you for a while longer." They were just about to separate, but she was already thinking about it. What should she do? It seemed that she could only urge the Ministry of Rites to quickly put the wedding ceremony on the schedule and hurry up with the purchasing process. Arbor rolled her eyes at him. She didn't believe that this person would obediently stay in the Eastern Palace and not come to find her. "This is for you." When Mo Lian stretched out his hand, he saw a short and small ruler that was flowing with an inky light lying quietly in his palm. Arbor's brows twitched, and she looked up at him. It could change the size of a weapon at will. This should be a spirit artifact. This spirit artifact doesn't need to be sealed anymore. It will automatically adjust to the range of power suitable for you according to your actual cultivation. It will be easier to use. Mo Lien hugged her and lowered his head to look at her with a smile. Do you like it? Arbor nodded heavily. He happily took the ruler and stroked it gently with his small hand. He could instantly feel the ruler's excitement. Her little Mo was back. It was no longer lifeless and broken. It had repaired Mo Lien. Arbor was so happy that he almost wanted to spin in circles, but his little hands and feet were trapped in someone's arms, and he couldn't move. Give it a try. Arbor nodded and channeled a trace of Xian energy into it. Immediately, an ink light flowed and it was full of vigor. The ruler turned into a normal ruler and was held in Arbor's hand. Mo Lien, thank. Before Arbor could finish his sentence, Mo Lien pressed a finger to his lips. What an idiot. You're not allowed to thank me. You're a spirit tool master. Arbor's eyes lit up as he looked at the man in front of him. Mo Lien tilted his head in slight distress. Perhaps. I'm just following the inheritance in my head. I'm actually not very clear about what level of weapon master I am. But currently, I can only forge a level 15 spirit artifact at most. But this ruler of yours, I used a kind of top-grade material that can grow. In the future, when your cultivation increases, you can forge it again. Arbor's eyes lit up. He tugged at his sleeve and asked, then what about Debeo? Mo Lien waved his hand and a small person jumped up in the air, happily pouncing towards Arbor. Little Master. Debeo missed you so much. Little Master, you're getting more and more beautiful. Chapter 639. Ha ha ha. Arbor laughed from the bottom of her heart. This joker was as talkative as always. Although she disliked it in the beginning, she really couldn't get used to it without that chatter. Humans were truly frightening. As she got used to it, she naturally got used to it. You're happy now. I still haven't taken out the good thing that you wanted custom-made for you. Mo Lien smiled as she took out a palm-sized wooden club. It was covered in a layer of densely packed and frightening barbs, and it was also coated with a layer of golden fluid that emitted a dazzling golden luster. Arbor thought that it was simply amazing. This golden club really looked small, exquisite, and beautiful. Taking the club that the Crown Prince handed over, Arbor turned it over and over, unable to take her eyes off it. She almost couldn't bear to part with it. Momo, this is your good partner, Jean, the little fellow muttered to herself, which amused the Crown Prince. Arbor swung her small hand slightly, and the club in her palm suddenly grew longer and fatter. In the blink of an eye, it became the size of a household club. In reality, this club could be a bit longer, but the space here was rather cramped, so Arbor dropped the idea. She excitedly lifted a corner of the curtain and secretly channeled mystic energy. The club emitted a faint golden glow that drilled out of the window. After a loud boom, a pile of snow nearby instantly exploded into pieces, and snowflakes silently flew everywhere. Arbor only used a wisp of mystic energy, and the club already had such power. This made her even more delighted. Mo Lien couldn't help but gasp in amazement, and she reached out to pinch the little fellow's cheek. Jojo is truly amazing. You made a spirit tool acknowledge you as its master so easily. If it was a normal person, just the process of taming a spirit tool would probably take more than 3 days and 2 nights. Spirit tools couldn't be compared to mystic tools. They all had spirituality, and they could only be tamed and used by people above the level of spiritual cultivator. A level 11 mystic cultivator effortlessly tamed a level 15 spirit tool that could grow. No one would dare to believe this if they heard about it. There's still a portion of this top-grade material left. I reckon it should be enough to upgrade your defensive artifact. Give me the defensive equipment first and stay at home obediently for the next 2 days. I'll send it to you once I'm done forging it. See, wasn't this an opportunity to openly send himself to his JoJo's doorstep? Arbor silently took off the ring on his finger and gave it to him. Well, can you change the design? Changing it to this eggshell. Something like a defensive barrier will do. Mo Lien shook her head vigorously. I can only change it to the shape of a flower. The corners of Arbor's mouth twitched. He didn't know if he was fooling him. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, then forget it. I'll stick with the eggshell. If he really changed it into a flower and wrapped himself in it, then wouldn't he make people laugh to death when he went up to fight? Okay. Mo Lien agreed with a smile. Just as he put away JoJo's ring, the carriage suddenly jolted and stopped. There was a small commotion outside. It's not impossible. You. Swoosh. The carriage curtain lifted, and a tall figure abruptly jumped into the carriage. JoJo. Duan. Arbor's mouth gaped as he looked at the youth pouncing toward him. However, the crown prince nimbly kicked over and hooked his JoJo into his arms while he was at it. Duan Yu didn't pounce on his JoJo and was almost kicked off the carriage by Mo Lien. His peerlessly handsome face instantly darkened. Chapter 640. JoJo. Duan Yu bitterly gazed at Arbor, who was in Mo Lien's embrace. His peach blossom eyes rolled up and down as he battled with Mo Lien. Hurry and let go of JoJo, you shameless guy. Jerk. He was so miserable. Ever since they parted ways at the Qin estate, he hadn't seen his JoJo again. The most bizarre thing was that a few days ago, he actually heard rumors in the capital that the great king had betrothed the crown prince to the Qiao family's eldest miss. What betrothal? He wouldn't acknowledge it. Did this great king's brain go haywire? For some reason, he blindly betrothed his JoJo to that wretched crown prince. If it weren't for the Duan clan's trivial matters pestering him these past few days, he would have long snuck into the palace and met with his JoJo. Whoa. Mo Lien vigilantly glanced at him. What did you come here for? Hurry and get out of the carriage. JoJo, the great king is fooling around and betrothing you to Prince Mo. If you don't like it, you can resist. Duan Yu incited from the side, causing Mo Lien's gaze to darken. It's not that I don't like it, Arbor honestly replied. Prince Mo's originally dark clouds instantly turned sunny. He looked down at his darling with a grin and then disdainfully glanced at Duan Yu. Did you hear that? Humph. Hurry and get out of the carriage. Don't keep saying strange things and inciting my wife. Hurry and scram. Duan Yu looked like he was struck by lightning. He sized up Arbor from head to toe and suddenly wanted to pounce on her again. JoJo, listen to me, you're still young. Don't fall for it. We're not in a hurry to get married. Hurry and come over, I'll take you away. Prince Mo directly struck out with his palm. Run my ass. Go and squat down where it's cool. With a flick of his sleeve, Duan Yu dodged Mo Lien's palm strike. The car window trembled, and the carved wooden window frame nearly cracked. What are you doing? Duan Yu glared angrily at Mo Lien. You want to fight, right? Mo Lien gave him a look that said, I'm afraid of you. Arbor suddenly reached out and patted Duan Yu's dog head as he exasperatedly said, You two should stop. How old are you already? You're even more noisy than Xiao Senior, Duan Yu. Mo Lien. Ha ha ha. Look at her JoJo's small hands. It was as if she was stroking a puppy and smoothing its fur. Duan Yu blinked and suddenly pulled Arbor's petite hand over. Mo Lien's handsome face darkened, but it was too late for her to snatch it back. Jojo, tell me. What did Mo Lien say to you? Why did you run into the palace when you were clearly at the Qin estate? That night, he even snuck into the Qin estate to find her, but it was all for naught. Arbor was an honest child, so he replied, I don't know either. I was in the Eastern Palace when I opened my eyes. Mo Lien carried me back. That scoundrel actually made the first move and gained the upper hand. Duan Yu gritted his teeth as he angrily glared at the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince raised his brows at him with an expression that said, Sorry, Jojo is my wife, so scram to the side. Jojo, do you know how the Qin estate is doing right now? Didn't pay attention. Arbor spoke the truth. She wasn't familiar with the Qin estate either. At most, she was closer to Xiang Yuanyuan. Logically speaking, the Qin estate should be sealed off after a level 4 zombie appeared. Xiang Yuanyuan had never come into contact with a level 4 zombie before, so she would naturally be released once the time was up and it was safe. She was merely a maidservant and wouldn't be an eyesore, so she would definitely be fine. As for Eldest Qin and Omega Kotoku, she couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. She wouldn't finish until 10:30 p.m., right? Chapter 641. I'm telling you, the Qin estate is miserable. They've been completely surrounded by Mo Lien's troops. Not even a fly can fly out. Duan Yu slandered Crown Prince Mo to his face, speaking ill of him with all his might. Mo Lien merely harumphed and raised a brow, ignoring him. However, Arbor said, logically speaking, that should be the case. A level 4 zombie appeared in their estate. Although it didn't injure anyone on the spot, who knows if it had come into contact with anyone else in the inner court before. It should be observed for 5 to 6 days and unsealed only after there are no issues, the little fellow said indifferently. Her heart had always been as hard as steel when it came to zombies, so she should treat them more heartlessly than anyone else. Duan Yu pursed his lips. It's already past the deadline, but Mo Lien doesn't have the slightest intention of letting them out. Ask him if you don't believe me. Arbor turned to look at Mo Lien, and the latter looked back innocently. I was just too busy and forgot about the Qin estate's matter. Don't worry, I just need to instruct them. As if he didn't want those two annoying young masters of the Qin estate to come out. Who knew if they would come looking for his darling? He forgot. Arbor then looked at Duan Yu with complete trust. The Crown Prince was busy with state affairs, so how could he have so much free time to pay attention to the Qin estate's trivial matters? If he forgot, then so be it. In any case, she didn't like the Qin estate very much. Duan Yu secretly twitched his mouth as he cursed Mo Lien's craftiness in his mind. What kind of tricks did this guy use to coax the little fellow? She even trusted him so much. It was simply infuriating to death. Jojo, you definitely don't know what the Great King's betrothal means. Since this path didn't work, Duan Yu quickly changed to another path and earnestly admonished Arbor, Jojo, you're young and naive, stupid. Some people are crafty and astute, and you're completely not their match. Every step he takes has his own profound meaning. First, it would silently appear by your side all the time. Then, it would slowly infiltrate your life and infiltrate your family. This was clearly despicable. Then, he would pull all your family members to his side and slowly lure you to his side step by step. This was Prince Mo's strategy of slowly infiltrating the empire. He was so stupid. With such a good plan, he should have made the first move to gain the upper hand. Why did the Crown Prince succeed? For example, this betrothal. Didn't you say that you don't even have any friends? Why did you suddenly agree to this betrothal? Duan Yu glanced at Arbor aggrievedly. Every time he said, let's be friends, she would yell, I don't have any friends. Then, Prince Mo would take advantage of this opportunity to sneak her into the enemy's camp. Ah, ba, 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 into Jojo's heart. Darling Chow nodded sincerely. Before Mo Lien could cover her mouth, she heard her reply crisply, "That's right. Mo Lien also told me that since I said that we don't have any friends, then we won't be friends anymore. We might as well be husband and wife." Duan Yu looked at her in bewilderment. Was this okay? Mo Lien couldn't resist facepalming. Oh my, why was his darling speaking so honestly? Darling, the private words between us husband and wife can only be spoken between us in the future. You mustn't tell anyone else. Mo Lien quickly pulled the little fellow closer to her and glared at Duan Yu. Let go. Chapter 642. Not only did Duan Yu not let go, he even grabbed Arbor's hand and abruptly lowered his head. He held her hand with both hands and sobbed bitterly. Jojo, how could you be so deceptive? You should have said earlier that you weren't going to be friends and be husband and wife instead. Let go. Mo Lien forcefully slapped Duan Yu's arm twice. Arbor hastily said, "Don't hit him, he's already crying. He looks quite miserable and pitiful." Mo Lien, as she spoke, Arbor reached out to stroke Duan Yu's head again. All right, don't cry anymore. I know, it was my fault for pretending not to know you that day. But how would I know that you guys are so crazy that you recognized me with a single glance? I originally wanted to hide in the Qin estate for a few days. When Arbor thought of this, she couldn't help but ask, Duan Yu, Mo Lien said that you blindly recognized me after my disguise. How did you guess? Mo Lien. His wife was too simple-minded and could say anything. What should he do? So anxious. Duan Yu was even more dumbfounded. Why did he feel like he was talking to his Jojo in a different world? Was he crying bitterly because of the Qin estate's matter? That wasn't the case at all right. He was crying because Jojo was deceptive and didn't tell him earlier that he had a wife if he didn't have friends, all right? However, he still quickly retorted, of course not, don't listen to Mo Lien's nonsense. How could I have guessed right? I recognized you with a single glance purely based on intuition. My Jojo is so fair, adorable, and intelligent. No matter what you turn into, I can recognize you with a single glance. It's really Jojo. Get out of my way. Go. Mo Lien grumpily grabbed Arbor's hand and pulled her into his embrace. He patted her back while he was at it. Don't believe him, Jojo. He's pretending to be obedient in front of you right now. He definitely guessed it. Absolutely. You're the one who's pretending to be obedient, your whole family is pretending to be obedient. If you didn't use such a shameless method to trick Jojo into leaving, who knows who would be smiling proudly right now. Mo Lien snorted as she glared at Duan Yu from the corner of her eyes. Who was he blaming for his own stupidity? The two of them communicated silently. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. After a fierce battle, Arbor's face was filled with confusion. The friendship between men was really strange and complicated. In one moment, they were as close as real brothers. That day in the Qin estate, the two of them had joined forces to force her out of the Qin estate, and at the same time, they had confronted the young masters of the Qin estate. Now, the two of them were biting each other like dogs that he knew that this fellow was up to no good. Sure enough, he had made a prompt decision to take his wife home and raise her. That was completely correct. Mo Lien thought to himself and couldn't help but feel a little proud. He really had to be fast and accurate. Otherwise, if his wife was kidnapped, who would he cry to? You're done talking. You can scram now. Mo Lien impatiently said, "We still have matters to attend to, so we won't see you out." Duan Yu quickly said, "Jojo, aren't you going home? I'll go back with you. I haven't seen uncle and auntie in a long time, and I really miss them." Mo Lien immediately glared daggers at him, stabbing him to death. His lips curled up as he remarked dryly, "Father and mother's health is quite good, so there's no need for you to worry. It's late today, so you should hurry and leave." Duan Yu rolled his eyes and pretended not to see. He pitifully looked at Arbor. "Jojo, I've been hungry for 2 days. Didn't you return to the Duan estate?" Arbor asked curiously. She didn't expect that the concealed weapons patrician family, the Duan estate in the capital, would also have such a bizarre background. Chapter 643. Duan Yu pursed his lips in disdain. "I don't want to go back. That old man is forcing me to go back." As soon as he stepped into that house, there would be endless disputes. It was so annoying that he was annoyed to death. Some trivial matters, big or small, always got in his way, making it impossible for him to have a pleasant conversation with Jojo. "Jojo, where did you run off to these 2 years? Do you know that I was about to court death? I'm sorry, I made you worry." Duan Yu's eyes brightened, and he started rambling non-stop, completely ignoring the daggers that Prince Mo shot at him from time to time. Afterwards, Duan Yu was annoyed by Mo Lien's daggers, so he directly shot him a look. "Don't think that you'll succeed just because you made the first move. I'm telling you, you two haven't gotten married yet, so who knows if there will be any variables. Moreover, after getting married, many people can still divorce." Prince Mo instantly exploded. He grabbed Duan Yu's collar and broke out of the window, directly beating him up. Arbor was baffled as he watched the two exchange murderous glances. Afterwards, they both jumped out of the carriage and actually started fighting halfway. With their cultivation, it was a lively fight. White snow fluttered and withered leaves covered the ground. The two's mystic energy swept across, causing all the people and animals within a radius of 5 kilometers to flee. The carriage driver stopped the carriage in a daze and turned to look at Arbor. He stammered, "Your Crown Princess, His Highness is." Arbor rolled his eyes. "Ignore them, the two brothers are acting crazy. Drive me to Wangji's sesame cake shop first. I'll bring a sesame cake back for my sister." "Yes, Crown Princess." The carriage driver quickly drove the carriage to Wangji's sesame cake shop. Behind them, Xiao Yao's carriage also stopped. When she saw the Crown Princess's carriage moving again, she also followed. This Wangji sesame cake shop sold at most 3 sesame cakes every day. Customers usually exchanged silk cloth or other food with the shop owner. Just like that, no one bought it. It wasn't that they didn't want to eat it, but that they didn't have anything valuable to exchange with others. This Wang Ji must have stockpiled a lot of wheat, so it wasn't much of a problem to make 3 sesame seed cakes a day. Who told them to only have sesame seed cakes at home? Of course, they had to use the sesame seed cakes to exchange for other things. Otherwise, they would be sick of eating sesame seed cakes every day. However, it had been more than half a month since anyone had come to buy sesame seed cakes or barter with him. Shopkeeper Wang was almost worried to death. His little grandson kept saying that he wanted to eat, eat, eat. It would be even better if there were some fresh vegetables. Sigh, he was always eating sesame seed cakes, dough balls, and the like. Without fresh vegetables and fruits in his stomach, his little grandson's bowel movements were somewhat obstructed. However, in this day and age, having something to eat was better than nothing, so there was nothing to be picky about. At this moment, he saw a little girl with a very beautiful face and wearing an expensive ferret fur cloak walk up to him. He hurriedly put on a smile and asked, "Little girl, do you want to buy sesame seed cakes?" Yes. I want to buy 20 sesame seed cakes, freshly made. Do you have any hot ones? Yes, yes, yes. The old man hurriedly nodded like he was pounding garlic. Then, he looked at Arbor somewhat shyly and rubbed his hands. Just, miss, I want to exchange them for some fresh vegetables and fruits, and also rice. It seemed that his request was a bit high, so the old man was somewhat embarrassed. Arbor flipped her small hand and threw half a bucket of white rice to him. Then, she asked Little Tree to bring her 2 big cabbages, some bean sprouts, a bunch of grapes, and 4 honey peaches from Paradise Planet. She threw them all to the old man. Is this okay? She was just sitting at home, and a nouveau riche came knocking on her door. The old man hugged a large pile of vegetables, fruits, and rice and almost cried out. He nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Today ended. Chapter 644. Miss, you have so many things that you can exchange for 30 sesame seed cakes. I'll make 30 for you. The old man was also an honest person, so he quickly beamed with joy when he saw this. Arbor shook his head. 20 will do. You can keep the rest and slowly eat them. The old man quickly thanked him profusely and used all his effort to make 20 hot sesame seed cakes. He carefully wrapped them in oil paper and handed them to the little girl. Many thanks. Arbor accepted them and directly stored them in his inner world. He nodded and turned to walk towards the carriage. As soon as she lifted the curtain, the corner of her mouth involuntarily twitched. She saw 2 men sitting across from each other, each holding a teacup. Their fingers were long and slender, and their eyes were slightly lowered. A picture of quiet and handsome men flowed before her eyes. The 2 of them were sipping tea, and the tea mist lingered before their eyes. It was quite beautiful like jade, as if they had completely lost the appearance of having just fought a fierce battle. The little fellow sighed and climbed into the carriage, resigned to her fate, and sat in the innermost seat. Not fighting anymore. We were just comparing notes, Mo Lien replied dryly. Emichim, when you disappeared for more than 2 years, we also frequently compared notes. Arbor, all right, the world of boys was truly quite difficult to understand. Jojo, tonight is the last day of Wuruan Pill House's auction, and they will continue to auction that rare 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron. How about we also go take a look? Duan Yut suggested with a smile. No need to trouble yourself. I'll just buy the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron for Jojo. Mo Lien harumphed. Duan Yut glanced at him and gloated, you're uncultured. Ha! Do you think you can buy something like that so easily? The seller said that if you want the cauldron, you can only exchange it with a level 11 mystic breakthrough pill and a blood stasis dispersing pill. Moreover, the person wants a high-grade pill, so it must naturally have purple veins, understand? Arbor didn't notice Duan Yu's smug tone and asked in astonishment, logically speaking, Wuruan Pill House's auction should have ended 2 days ago, right? It's precisely because of the appearance of this 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron. Duan Yu clicked his tongue in wonder. The 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron attracted the attention of all the pill alchemists in the nearby towns. The alchemists really wanted to obtain this medicinal cauldron. It was just a pity that the other party had set specific conditions for the exchange. It is said that this matter has alarmed the Alchemy Alliance, and it has been delayed for 2 or 3 days to wait for the Alliance Master of the Alchemy Alliance to come and bid for the medicinal cauldron. Arbor blinked. Is the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron really that good? Even the Alchemy Guild is here. Of course. It is said that it is the treasured cauldron that all alchemists dream of. You only need a level 11 mystic breaking pill and a blood stasis dispersing pill with purple veins in exchange for that cauldron. Arbor's eyes sparkled as he asked. Yes, that's what the seller of the medicinal cauldron said. This matter has already spread through the streets and alleys, Duan Yu said with a grin. How is it? Shall we go and take a look tonight? Arbor nodded. I'll go and exchange with him. Duan Yu exclaimed with a chuckle, Jojo's current pill refining standards are so superb. It's all right. Arbor nodded. It shouldn't be a problem to concoct pills with purple veins. However, she was a bit impatient because she didn't have a suitable medicinal cauldron, and it took a long time to concoct. Can we make it in time? Tonight is the last day, Duan Yu casually asked as he leisurely took a sip from his teacup. We can make it in time, right? We should be able to finish it in a little over 2 hours. It's just that it takes too long, so it's a bit annoying. The little fellow looked bored, and as a result, Duan Yu nearly choked to death on his tea. Chapter 645. You only need more than 2 hours to concoct a level 11 mystic breakthrough pill. Why did he keep hearing people excitedly talk about how some master spent 3 days and 2 nights painstakingly concocting a level 10 or level 11 mystic breakthrough pill, only to have it snatched up at a high price in a matter of minutes when it was put up for auction? Arbor rolled her eyes at him. It takes more than 2 hours to concoct a level 11 mystic breakthrough pill. Do you want to tire me to death? What I'm saying is that it might take more than 2 hours to concoct a mystic breakthrough pill and a blood stasis dispersing pill together. Mo Lien twitched her mouth and looked askance at Duan Yu's gaping mouth in shock. She couldn't help but laugh inwardly. You haven't seen the world yet. Do you think other people can compare to my wife's pill concoction talent? Mo Lien harumphed and rebuked Duan Yu. Duan Yu speechlessly rubbed his nose and looked out the window. The carriage had already stopped. Xiao Zhongbang and his wife, who had heard the news, quickly came out to greet them. Just as they were about to salute, Mo Lien waved her hand and went up to support them, pulling them into the house. Sister. Xiao Lin bounced out. Judging from her rosy cheeks, it was evident that the night raid 2 days ago didn't cause her much trouble. Arbor pursed her lips and reached out to hold her sister's small hand. As the group walked inside, Wei Ziqin cheerfully said, Xiao Yu, you haven't come in a long time. Yes, Auntie. I'll come every 2 or 3 days in the future. Don't find me annoying. How could I, child? Wei Ziqin shook her head with a smile. You're Jojo's good friend. Auntie doesn't mind you coming to eat every day. Arbor glanced askance at Duan Yu and harumphed. This time, she didn't rebuke a certain person in front of her mother by saying, no friends. Sister. A vigorous youth's voice cut in. Arbor looked up and saw a burly young man with thick brows and big eyes running down the corridor. He ran straight to her and looked at her with a hearty laugh. Brother who? Arbor's eyebrows curved slightly as he ran forward to greet his brother. Little sister, big brother really regrets what happened last time. Of all times to go into seclusion, I just had to go into seclusion when you came back. Xiao Hu scratched his head and said. What's there to regret? Didn't I come back? Yes, yes, yes. Xiao Hu smiled honestly. You won't be leaving this time, right? Arbor nodded. She's living at home. Great. Jolin cheered and pulled Arbor's hand. Sister, did you buy me a sesame seed cake? Wei Ziqin turned her head and glared at him. You're only thinking about that little bit of food. It's as if you're missing out on something. Uncle Wang's sesame seed cakes are crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. They're delicious. Xiao Lin pouted and looked at her sister eagerly. Arbor reached out and flicked her forehead. Then, with a swipe of his hand, he took out a stack of sesame seed cakes from his inner world. Take this and stuff your mouth. Jolin cheered and took it, grinning from ear to ear. A few sesame seed cakes were enough to make her happy. Arbor helplessly shook her head and followed the group of people chatting and laughing into the hall. After chatting for a while, Arbor was still thinking about the pills, so she planned to return to her room first. When Wei Ziqin heard this, she quickly wanted to take her daughter with her, leaving Qiao Zhongbang and second uncle Qiao to take care of Mo Lian and Duan Yu. Jolin quickly followed them and chattered the entire way about the attack that night. As they chatted, the topic shifted to Miss Wu. Arbor frowned. Lin, you said that Miss Wu originally wanted you guys to send her off. Chapter 646. That's right, it's that Wu Xiaosu, the eldest daughter of the Wu family. Mother's heart was about to soften, but I saw that she was faking it, so I didn't let her come up. Otherwise, if something happened to her in our carriage, the Wu family might come after us to settle accounts. Xiao Lin proudly raised her little head. Wei Ziqin couldn't help but laugh. She turned around and poked her daughter's head. You're the only one who likes to pretend to be obedient in front of your eldest sister. You're making mother sound worthless. Xiao Lin stuck out her tongue with a playful and adorable expression. Arbor looked at her little sister's lively and cheerful appearance, and her heart was filled with emotion. A faint smile appeared on her lips as she nodded. Xiao Lin is quite quick-witted. Alright, you don't have to praise her anymore. If you keep praising your little sister, her tail will fly to the sky. Wei Ziqin shook her head with a smile. She held her daughter's hand, feeling full of happiness. The three of them entered Nanju Garden. The emerald green bamboo that greeted them caused Arbor's expression to become slightly dazed. At this time, the snow hadn't completely melted, and the emerald green and white blended together to form a scene. It reminded her of a benevolent old lady who always liked to wave her large cattail leaf fan and set up a small table in the bamboo forest to listen to the wind and the bamboo while admiring the snow. She couldn't go back. Jojo, what's wrong? Wei Ziqin looked at her child in confusion. Arbor blinked and gently shook her head. It's nothing, mother. I like it here a lot. It's good that you like it, it's good that you like it. Wei Ziqin nodded happily. Go in and take a look. Mother has already prepared for you to come home to live. The mattress and everything else is new. See if you need anything, then tell mother. Mother, you always give elder sister the best. Compared to this, I don't even look like your biological daughter. Qiao Lin pouted and teased. Wei Ziqin's hand paused, then she raised it to pat her younger daughter's back. What nonsense are you talking about? Your mother doesn't worry enough about you. Hee hee. Jolin covered her mouth and laughed. She flashed behind her sister and pulled Arbor's sleeve. Sister, when you weren't home, mother would hit me for no reason and always said that I was a naughty monkey. Now that you're back, you have to uphold justice for me. We sisters must be of one mind. Wei Ziqin couldn't help but sneer. Let me tell you, your sister is the most principled. Don't expect her to stand on your side if you do something wrong. Qiao Lin pursed her lips as the three of them walked into the exquisitely decorated room. Using a double-sided peony embroidered screen to separate the room, the outside was arranged into a small cubicle for drinking tea and entertaining close friends, while the inside was a spacious bedroom. Qiao Mu was satisfied with everything she needed after sweeping her eyes over it, so she didn't need to add anything else. She was originally a person who did not have high requirements. As long as it was comfortable, it was fine. As for the furnishings and whatnot, it did not matter. Now that father had been promoted to a marquis, mother had started to be particular. Otherwise, if it was in the village in the past, a big Kong bed was enough as long as it was warm enough to lie down. Sister, you're really not a particular person. Shaolin saw her sister's gaze, which seemed to be indifferent to worldly things, and couldn't help but burst into laughter. Go away, you have no sense of seniority. How can you casually make fun of your sister? Wei Ziqin patted her younger daughter. Arbor couldn't help but shake her head. Protecting her younger sister, she said, Mother is fine. We're in our own home, so we can be casual. That's right. Xiaolin tilted her head and naturally shrank behind Arbor. I'll add more chapters today. Go home first. Don't hide. Throw your tickets over, ow. Chapter 647. You can't nurture her bad habit, Wei Ziqin reprimanded with a frown. What kind of person is she if she's like this outside? We're in the capital right now, and everyone in our family has to fight for your honor when they go out. Mom, I'm very well-behaved and well-mannered outside. Shaolin made a standard greeting and called out gently, Greetings to the Crown Princess. Wei Ziqin and Arbor both laughed. This mischievous girl. Arbor poked her little head. Come, let sister take your pulse. Xiaolin extended her wrist, and before long, Arbor had her switch hands. After taking her pulse, he nodded and said, Your body is quite good. Her mystic energy surged powerfully, and her aura was dense and prolonged. Although she was only a mere level 4 mystic cultivator, the strength of her body's recuperation and the expansion of her mystic meridians were very good. Sister will make 2 level 4 and level 5 mystic breakthrough pills for you. First, I'll help you recuperate for 2 more days. After 2 days, take them and enter seclusion to see if you can break through to level 6 mystic cultivator in one go. Xiaolin's small mouth was wide enough to stuff a duck egg in. Sister. Sister. Xiaolin was simply in disbelief. She was currently a level 4 mystic cultivator, but from sister's words, it seemed like advancing to level 6 mystic cultivator overnight was an extremely simple matter. It's fine. Work hard. Even if you can't advance to level 6 in one go, it doesn't matter. You should be able to steadily advance to level 5 mystic cultivator. Arbor comforted his sister before turning around to take his mother's pulse. Mom's foundation is weak. Let me help you recuperate first. Don't be in a hurry to advance, lest your mystic meridians become chaotic and cause chi deviation if you forcefully advance, Arbor said. Mom is already so old. It's already a pleasant surprise to be able to become a mystic cultivator. How can I demand anything else? Only then did Wei Ziqin return to her senses. Her eyes were actually brimming with tears as she grasped Arbor's hands. She muttered to herself with an agitated expression, Jojo, tell Mom, did you become an alchemist? What his daughter was talking about just now should be pill refinement. Arbor nodded. He was a little surprised that his mother would be so emotional. He helplessly patted her hand and said, Didn't you already know that I have some medical skills? That's different. How could that be the same? You've become an alchemist. Madame Wei continued to mutter, Daughter, an alchemist is very different from a normal doctor. Alchemists are quite impressive. Yes, yes, yes. Arbor could only nod along with his excited mother. Mom, don't wake me up before dinner. I'll concoct a few pills for little Lin, and the others. Okay. Go ahead. Mother and your younger sister won't hinder you. Wei Ziqin beamed from ear to ear as she nodded. She pulled her younger daughter towards the door as she muttered, No, this is such a good thing. You must tell your father and have him open the ancestral hall. I want to pay respects to the ancestors. This is the manifestation of our ancestors. Arbor. Mom, aren't you exaggerating a little too much? Because she didn't have a handy medicinal cauldron, Arbor still took out a very ordinary cooking stove to concoct her pills. If other alchemists were to see that this strange child had used this crappy little cauldron to concoct those high-grade pills with purple veins, they would probably vomit blood and faint from anger. Arbor washed her small hands clean and calmed her mind. She took out a few stalks of herbs for concocting a level 11 mystic breakthrough pill and began to carefully grind them. Chapter 648. It was still because she didn't have a medicinal cauldron, so the little fellow could only make a porcelain jar on the small stove to make her pills. If those people from the Pill Alliance saw this scene, they would definitely slap her to the wall, making her unable to be pulled down. You freaking made a small jar for stewing tonics, and your sister stewed it there, and you actually made a purple-veined pill. Why don't you go to heaven? That was why it was more convenient for her to use a small jar to stew medicinal powders, ointments, and the like. It was also fine to make medicinal liquids, but refining pills was a little out of place. Who asked her to be so poor that she didn't even have a decent medicinal cauldron? However, her alchemy and medical skills were all made up by herself. Before eldest Chin told her about medicinal cauldrons, she didn't even think that there was such a thing as a medicinal cauldron. Perhaps that master of hers, who was rather capable in the medical field, also did it like this. Otherwise, why didn't she have any information about medicinal cauldrons in her mind? How would she know that her capable master basically didn't need to worry about refining pills in the later stages? He just needed to throw the medicinal ingredients in, and he didn't even need to control the heat, and it would form pills on its own. Unlike her, who still had to bitterly watch the heat. So it took so long, and she could only refine 2 types of pills in a little over 2 hours. It really made her depressed. With this kind of refining speed, she didn't even have the face to tell others that she was an alchemist. That patient was about to die, and she still needed to refine pills for an hour. That person would have kicked the bucket long ago. Sigh. A certain darling supported her chin with one hand as she squatted beside the small stove. From time to time, she would use mystic energy to adjust the heat and gently brush the lid of the porcelain jar. She had to think of a good idea to speed up. She still had to refine pills for Dad and the rest. This way, she wouldn't be able to finish even if the sky turned dark. When Mo Lien stealthily sneaked in, he saw his wife's small, bitter face as she fretted over a small pot of stew. He was simply a little stunned. His phoenix eyes suddenly widened. This is... You won't tell me. You used this small stove and small white porcelain jar to stew your purple-veined pills. What do you think? Darling Chow was already feeling a little hopeless from waiting. Therefore, after she learned how to concoct medicine, to be honest, she hadn't really concocted many pills. It was simply too slow, so slow that she wanted to sleep. You. Crown Prince Mo was simply at a loss for words as he looked at his eccentric wifey. How many times have you succeeded in refining pills? Mo Lien couldn't believe it. A certain baby rolled her eyes and gave him a look that said, nonsense. Student Mo felt that the bronze cauldron he used was already broken enough. It was simply a waste of his great talent in refining weapons. However, using such a broken cauldron, he could still make something like a level 15 spirit weapon. If this were to spread out, it would really shock the world. However, this time, he felt that those people who thought that he was enough to shock the world were definitely ignorant and inexperienced. They had not seen the weirdness of his little wife. This was the oddball girl of the entire alchemy world. Jojo, where are the pills you refined? Here. Arbor's little mouth twitched as he showed him the few jade white pills in the lid of the teacup. This time, Prince Mo couldn't help but slightly open his mouth. There were 4 small round pills in the lid of the teacup. Based on his experience, he had never seen anyone who could refine so many pills in one afternoon. You actually refined 4 pills in one afternoon. What kind of pills are these? It smelled so good. Chapter 649. Are you kidding me? If I can only refine 4 pills in an afternoon, then I don't want to live anymore. Arbor rolled his eyes and threw him a small porcelain bottle. And this? Prince Mo. My wife is especially inhuman when she's refining pills. What should I do? There were no less than 10 small, round pills in the small porcelain bottle. I'm not refining anymore after refining this, the little girl said impatiently. The little girl said impatiently, refining 20-something pills in one afternoon, it's so slow. Prince Mo, that if there were other alchemists present right now, they would definitely want to beat her to death. These are all level 11 mystic breakthrough pills? Prince Mo asked as he held the small bottle. No, 10 level 11 mystic breakthrough pills and 6 stasis dispelling pills. Arbor glanced at the teacup lid and said, those 4 pills are for Shaolin, and father. They were leveled 4, leveled 5, and leveled 7 and level 8 mystic breakthrough pills respectively. If there were no accidents, father could advance to level 9 mystic cultivator, and Shaolin should be able to advance to level 6. Mo Lien already didn't make any sound. He really wanted to ask her, using such a lousy tool, a small jar for stewing bird's nest, to refine pills, don't you feel sorry for the pills and so many excellent medicinal herbs? But the problem was, the pills actually obediently took shape. To other alchemists who earnestly bought medicinal cauldrons and refined pills day and night, this was such a heart-rending matter. Baby, do you know of pill houses? I do. Arbor cast him a sidelong glance and felt that the crown prince's gaze was a bit off. It was clearly a bit like he was looking at someone from another planet. Then do you know of any pill houses that sell ordinary medicinal cauldrons? Arbor shook his head honestly. How would she know? If it weren't for the Omega Kotoku bringing her to experience pill houses last time, she wouldn't have come into contact with them at all. Was she to blame for being ignorant in her previous life? She hadn't refined pills in her previous life, so of course she wouldn't understand this stuff. You spent the entire afternoon refining level 11 mystic breakthrough pills and blood stasis dispersing pills. You even refined mystic breakthrough pills for Shaolin, and father. How did you manage to concoct them in such a short time? The crown prince was extremely curious. Classmate Arbor looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. He raised his hand and patted the small porcelain jar. The lid opened, revealing 4 small pills that had already taken shape. You can use different herbs to put them inside and stew them together, right? Mo Lien! Exclamation point. You actually didn't explode like that, you're ruthless. But these pills are of different grades, and their attributes are different as well. Mixing them together to refine, no, to stew them. What are you doing? Xiao Mu had an expression that said, you're so ignorant and inexperienced. That's why I said it's annoying. Furthermore, he had to constantly control the temperature of the fire, and he couldn't even take his eyes off it. How annoying. The most I've stewed is 6 mystic breakthrough pills of the same grade in one jar. Arbor placed the lid back on the jar and waved his small hand. Don't worry, I'll be done soon. Is it time to eat? It's not time to eat yet, Mo Lien replied with a wooden expression. His wife couldn't be called a weirdo when it came to refining pills. She was simply a pervert. What should he do? Previously, it took me half an hour just to grind the various herbs. Baby, don't say such things in front of other pill refiners in the future, Mo Lien looked at him seriously and said. Why? Because you'll be beaten up by a group of people. He was so worried about his wife that it wasn't over yet. Chapter 650. The other pill alchemists were truly strange creatures. She was purely discussing the grinding time of medicinal herbs, stewing, pill refinement methods with them to promote mutual communication. She couldn't even do that. Looking at the Crown Prince's deeply worried gaze, why did she feel like the other pill alchemists would beat her up? That was impossible. Everyone was fastidious, so they had to do some upper-class fastidious things. What are these last 4 pills? The Crown Prince glanced at them. Aside from the faint purple veins on them, everything else felt about the same. Even the color was pure white, and the size and roundness were all carved from the same mold. They're just 4 body-tempering pills for my second uncle. Arbor skillfully slapped the small lid and took the 4 body-tempering pills into his hand. He carefully examined and sniffed them before nodding his small head in satisfaction. Lien, I refined them quite well. Do you want to take a few to eat? Qinghuan said they taste very good. Lien, what the hell did he mean by, taste very good? Could it be that in his darling's eyes, he was such a foodie? Arbor stuffed him with a body-tempering pill and 2 level 11 mystic breakthrough pills. These body-tempering pills are good for the body, so you should eat them. You don't have much use for mystic breakthrough pills, so give them to your subordinates. Jojo. Lien pulled his small hand, touched. You're so good to me. Arbor turned to glance at him and nodded seriously. It's only right that I treat you well. You're also very good to me. Lien almost laughed out loud. Look, his Jojo was such an honest darling. Lien reached out to cup her small chin with a grin. Just as he was about to plant a kiss on her lips, he heard hurried footsteps outside the door, and Duan Yu's killjoy voice drifted inside. Ciao ciao. Time to eat. Lien picked up that scalding pot of stew and threw it in Duan Yu's direction. Arbor immediately jumped up and shouted, Hey, catch. Don't break my medicine jar. Duan Yu originally wanted to kick it away, but when he heard Jojo's words, he quickly hugged the medicine jar to his chest and looked over in bewilderment. What is this thing? You 2 brothers, don't ruin it. If you want to fight, do it outside. I only have 1 pot that I can use to refine pills. If I break it, I'll have to find another pot. As she spoke, our dear Xiao Mu took back her jar from Duan Yu's hands with a treasured expression and ran to wash it. Duan Yu looked in bafflement at Lien, who was walking over with her hands behind her back. What kind of mystic weapon is that jar? Look at how nervous Jojo is. Lien rolled his eyes at him. It's just an ordinary pot of medicinal stew that I bought from a street stall. What profound artifact. Don't be ridiculous. Duan Yu. She's using this to make pills. No way. Lien pointed his chin in that direction. Duan Yu looked in the direction he was pointing and saw a small stove. Duan Yu gaped. Tools for refining pills. Arbor ran over after washing the jar. When she saw Duan Yu still standing at the door in a daze, she thought for a moment before taking out a body-tempering pill from her pocket and tossing it to him. This is for you. She gave the remaining 2 body-tempering pills to second uncle. Let's go eat. Arbor put away her set of tools for refining pills, and was led out the door by Lien. She even looked back curiously at the dazed Duan Yu. What's wrong with him? Nothing, he's just a bit frightened by you. Duan Yu. Arbor called out. Duan Yu hastily followed her out the door. Chapter 651. Duan Yu looked at Arbor incredulously the entire way. Jojo, I must obtain the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron for you tonight no matter what. His Jojo actually used a set of goods from a street stall to refine pills. This was too much of an insult to her skills. Emichim, I've already prepared the pills that person wanted. The earlier we finish eating, the earlier we can leave and the earlier we can return. Hopefully, that person was a straightforward person. Arbor wasn't willing to waste his breath on others. Our dear Chiao Sen was brought back from the academy by a servant, but he still cowered and evaded his eldest sister when he saw her. The family ate a joyous and harmonious meal. Arbor took out the finished pills and gave them to father, second uncle, and Xiao Lin. The three of them were overjoyed, and they practically couldn't take their eyes off the pills in their hands. After we finish eating, we plan on going to Wuruan Pill House to see what exactly that medicinal cauldron that has been talked about looks like. Xiao Mu said, I'll be back later. Just send someone to leave the door open. Wei Ziqin nodded and instructed, don't be too late. Meanwhile, Xiao Lin and Xiao Xin gazed at their sister eagerly, looking like they wanted to go with her. However, due to their mother's fierce expression, they didn't dare to speak. Mom. Children, don't go jumping around so late at night. Your eldest sister is a pill alchemist. Wei Ziqin spat out these two words especially gloriously, her face practically glowing. Eldest sister is going to the pill house to handle serious business. You two should behave yourselves and stay at home. Don't disturb your sister. Xiao Lin and Xiao Xin looked at each other and drooped their small heads. Mom, it's fine. It's almost the new year, so the streets should be quite lively. Anyway, it's early after eating, so I'll bring them out for a stroll. They won't be back too late. Xiao Lin and Xiao Xin quickly raised their heads again, their round and bright eyes brimming with hope as they looked at Wei Ziqin. Wei Ziqin didn't know whether to laugh or cry at their antics, and she glanced at them irritably. Don't cause trouble for your eldest sister when you go out. I know. Mother, I'm very obedient. The two siblings hurriedly agreed. When they were eating, they also put in a lot of effort. Their hearts were about to fly out of their homes. After hurriedly finishing their meal, Arbor and the two children boarded the Crown Prince's carriage and headed towards Wurundan. Xiao Yao didn't follow them. She politely bowed to Wei Ziqin, Xiao Zhongbang, and then went back to Nanzhu Garden to pack her things. This child, Xiao Yao, is getting better and better. Wei Ziqin sighed with emotion. She turned her head and saw her nephew, Xiao Hu, staring blankly in the direction of the other party's departure. She couldn't help but burst out laughing. Silly boy, you haven't seen Xiao Yao for a long time. Why don't you talk to her more? Isn't that so? Look at how silly he is. Why aren't you going? Second Uncle Qiao reached out and slapped his son's head. Qiao Hu jumped up and left in a hurry. The carriage rolled along Minshan Avenue for a while at a moderate speed. Before they reached Wurundan House, they saw that the road was already congested. Moreover, the snowy road was difficult to travel on, so two carriages actually crashed into each other and were stuck in the middle of the road. The servants of the two families accused each other and argued loudly. Arbor lifted the curtain and peeked out to take a look. The road ahead is blocked. Let's get off the carriage and squeeze in. The transaction hasn't started yet. Let's go to the third floor of that restaurant. When the time comes, we can just shout. Mo Lien couldn't bear to let his little fellow squeeze in with a bunch of stinky men, so he pulled her little hand and pointed forward. Time to sleep. Chapter 652. Arbor raised her small head. This three-story restaurant wasn't large, but it happened to be right next to the pill house, so it was already packed with people. How could there still be seats like this? This restaurant is actually still operating normally. What were they scheming? Arbor was a bit curious. Those who sold sesame seed cakes would sell sesame seed cakes because they wanted to barter with others for other daily necessities. But a restaurant was different. A restaurant would definitely have a rich variety of dishes and ample wine. Of course. Mo Lien smiled at her and held her small hand as they walked towards the restaurant. There are 5 inns and restaurants in the entire capital that are operating normally. Of course, their prices are a bit higher. They don't buy gold, silver, pearls, and jade, but all kinds of forging materials, medicinal herbs, and at the very least, mid and high-grade magnetite. Mo Lien leaned close to her and whispered, "This is a profitable business with little capital. That piece of supreme-grade blood-forged gold was bought from here." Darling Chow's eyes suddenly bulged as she looked at the crown prince like he was an unscrupulous merchant. She lowered her voice and asked, "This restaurant is yours?" Mo Lien nodded rather smugly. "How is it? Hubby runs a good business, right?" When Duan Yu heard this, he gave a disdainful harumph. "Using your power to bully others and plunder the people's wealth." Mo Lien cast him a sidelong glance and spat at him. What did a brat know? The night pavilion's intelligence-gathering work had to be carried out in restaurants and tea-houses. All 5 inns and restaurants in the capital are yours. That's not it, there are only 3. As long as it's called Morning Cloud Restaurant, it's ours. Mo Lien led the little fellow inside. The innkeeper recognized the crown prince's identity at a glance, but he didn't dare to make a fuss. He only quickly welcomed them and respectfully escorted them to a private room on the 3rd floor. He arranged for a waiter to eagerly pour tea for them and then went to prepare the dishes. Mo Lien waved her hand and said, "Don't be busy. We just finished our meal and came over. Just some tea, pastries, and snacks will do." The innkeeper quickly agreed respectfully and quickly led people out to prepare. "Is business good here?" "This place is a little more remote, so the business isn't as good as the other 2 restaurants. However, due to the special circumstances of the past few days, the restaurant's business has improved a lot because of the pill house's auction. No wonder His Highness the Crown Prince is in such a hurry to cultivate a batch of edible vegetables. I reckon that if he continues to operate like this, his private stockpile of grain will be depleted." Duan Yu harumphed. The 2 children didn't interrupt, but when they saw that the tea and snacks were served, they happily ate them. Arbor tilted his head and thought for a moment. "If it's just vegetables, fish, prawns, and fruits for the 3 restaurants, I can think of a way. But there are fewer meat birds." Her Paradise Planet's vegetables and fruits, especially the peaches, were almost unable to store them all. However, he could take out some to supply them. There were plenty of fish and prawns in the lake, so Chio only needed to catch some casually. Even now, Paradise Planet was still not very willing to accept living creatures from the outside world. Therefore, it was very rare to put living animals from the outside world inside. Naturally, the poison-tailed butterflies that they had painstakingly reared and couldn't be treated as food. Those were her little companions. According to Cho, she reckoned that she would only be able to take care of some small animals and bring them into Paradise Planet after her cultivation reached level 13 Mystic Cultivator or above. At that time, Cho wouldn't drag things out so tiresomely. Arbor propped up his chin with one hand and looked back. He saw 2 youths looking at him, waiting for him to continue. Chapter 653. Unfortunately, she couldn't invite them into Paradise Planet to take a look, and Darling Chow was too lazy to explain so much. So she looked at them and directly took out 2 peaches from Paradise Planet. "Try it. It's a bit tastier than before. I can supply this kind of peach for a long time in the restaurant. But it can only be exchanged with medicinal herbs." Mo Lien was long accustomed to the little fellow taking out peaches from time to time. Duan Yu, on the other hand, was taken aback as he stared blankly at her. This peach, is it the peach from the paradise we went to back then? Duan Yu clicked his tongue in wonder. When he took a bite, he felt that the moisture was extremely good and the texture was excellent. It practically melted in his mouth and even converged into a warm current that merged into his mystic meridians. This was a rare and excellent product. There was a mellow mystic energy hidden inside the peach. Although there wasn't much, it was very rich. Just a few drops merged into the mystic meridians and it could cause a ripple in one's mystic energy. If he could feel it eating with his cultivation, it would definitely imperceptibly increase the concentration of mystic energy in his body if he took it for a long time. However, when he took a bite, he glanced over and saw the two children staring at him eagerly as if their saliva was about to fall out. What should he do when he suddenly felt like he was bullying children? Sister. The two children turned their heads at the same time and looked at their sister eagerly. Arbor couldn't help but find it amusing, and she reached out to take out 2 ebony blue storage talismans. Here, I won't forget your share. She had already prepared them for her 2 younger siblings. There were over 1,000 peaches inside, as well as many other fruits and snacks, enough for them to eat for a long time. Don't be greedy and eat too much until you can't eat. Arbor instructed, drip a drop of blood to open the talismans. Try it. The 2 children cheered and put down the pastries in their hands. They bounced over and took the ebony talismans from her hands before going to play around by themselves. What Arbor lacked the most right now were all kinds of talismans. After staying on Paradise Planet for more than 2 years, she would draw talismans to kill time when she had nothing to do. There were at least 1,000 assistive offensive talismans drawn from ebony. In addition, she had drawn more than 500 ebony blue storage talismans, so she didn't have to worry about her storage space at all. He didn't draw many summoning talismans, only about 40 of them. Now that he thought about the summoning talisman, he felt very depressed. Every time he summoned something, it was not very reliable. This time, he actually summoned a snake. He really did not like it. In addition, she also used ordinary blank talismans to draw many talisman formations in case of emergency. As a result, there were only 4,400 blank talismans in stock and 6,400 blank ebony in stock. Mo Lien, I want some more ebony. When Arbor thought of this, he said excitedly, I've learned a new glyph array. However, drawing this glyph array on ordinary blank glyph paper might not be as effective as drawing it on ebony. 120 pieces of ebony will be used to draw this talisman formation, so it's better to prepare more. All right. Mo Lien naturally agreed without hesitation. Ask Bailey Shi to get more. Ebony was not a rare item in the south, so Bailey Shi only needed to give an order to get it. Duan Yu asked curiously, what new glyph array did you learn? Our dear Duan Yu, who knew nothing about talisman drawing, felt that talisman practitioners were very mystical. Arbor was a bit smug. Have you heard of it? Transfer glyph array. Chapter 654. After saying that, Duan Yu's mouth gaped open with a "you're so awesome" expression. The little fellow was quite pleased with herself. Right now, she was liking that golden talisman jade tone that inexplicably appeared in her conscious more and more. The talisman carving described in this golden talisman jade tone was truly too wondrous. It gave her a very novel feeling every time, intoxicating her with it. She wished for nothing more than to diligently learn more. Transportation talisman matrices are truly amazing. Mo Lien nodded and said, I've never heard of anyone from that talisman patrician family drawing transportation talisman matrices. What about this transportation talisman matrix? How far can it transport? Emichim, based on my current talisman energy as an intermediate-level talisman practitioner. The transportation distance I can draw is estimated to be within 5 kilometers. The number of people transported cannot exceed 5. The number of people transported cannot exceed 3 times in a row. The little fellow puffed up her cheeks. The number of people really is a bit low. However, this is only my estimation. I haven't really drawn it before, so I'll only know the actual situation after I draw it. When the two youths heard this, they both wanted to roll their eyes. Not bad, baby. After 3 consecutive teleportations, the 5 of them were already 15 kilometers away. Even if someone wanted to hunt you down, they would have to use an extremely fast flying mystic weapon or a very strong flying beast. Otherwise, they could only watch you guys die. Alright, I'll urge you on the ebony matter, Mo Lien said with a grin. Then what grade of medicinal herb do you want to exchange the peaches for? Arbor was at a loss when she asked this. She knew the quality of medicinal herbs, but she wasn't clear about their grades. That longevity flower was an intermediate-level medicinal herb, and it was that miss from the Pill Union who kindly told her. Can you give me a book on medicinal herb grades to look at? What Mo Lien took from the royal physician before were all unique medical manuals that didn't touch on the basic classification of medicinal herbs at all. Mo Lien and Duan Yu couldn't help twitching their mouths. Who would have thought that a fellow alchemist who could casually stew a batch of purple-veined high-grade pills with a small stew pot bought from a street stall actually wasn't clear about the basic classification of medicinal herbs? This little fellow only had experience and high-level knowledge, but her basic theories were very shallow. I don't need to read a book for this. The quality of medicinal herbs is similar to the classification of our forging materials. Generally, they were divided into low, medium, and high grades. Above that were yellow grade, black grade, earth grade, and heaven grade materials. The blood-forged gold I told you about before is a top-grade material that can be used to forge a level 15 spirit tool. That's why it's technically called an earth-grade forging material. Mo Lien explained to his little wife, generally speaking, we can call any material above the earth grade a top-grade material. Xiao Mu came to a realization. As for this peach of yours, if consumed over a long period of time, it can strengthen one's physique and also increase one's cultivation and profound energy. The profound energy contained within the peach is extremely dense and is not bad at all. I suggest that you at least exchange it with medicinal herbs of profound grade and above, so that you won't suffer a loss. Arbor nodded repeatedly. Then I'll leave it to you. Save me the trouble. Mo Lien naturally agreed with a smile. Arbor then gave her an ebony talisman that contained more than 1,000 peaches. When she turned around to look, she saw that guy, Duan Yu, looking at her eagerly. Thinking about how Duan Yu had helped her a lot, she couldn't favor one over the other, so she also tossed him an ebony blue storage talisman that contained a lot of peaches. She also gave him 2 empty storage talismans to store things. After a round of distribution, people were already shouting at the entrance of the pill house downstairs. Chapter 655. Mo Lien, I have a lot of vegetables and grain. If the restaurant doesn't have enough to sell, you can look for me, Arbor said to Mo Lien. Paradise Planet's vegetable fields had already reached a certain scale. Now that Chocho was bored out of his mind, he started thinking about planting food. Presumably, it wouldn't be long before Chocho built 2 more granaries to store things. Fortunately, Paradise Planet's surface area was very large. It was comparable to 5 or 6 times Shizhou City's surface area, so it could do whatever it wanted. If there was an abundance of food production then, they might not be able to satisfy other needs, but they might at least be able to supply food to the capital first. Mo Lien smiled faintly and said, there aren't that many people in this restaurant usually. After all, the price is right there. How many people would be so extravagant as to spend so many magnetite just for a good meal? My stockpile of grain is enough for the time being. It'll be fine for at least a year or two. Did you forget that when we raided Qinghe town, I also took a lot of grain? Arbor nodded. It was fine as long as there was no problem. Mo Lien, I have a batch of winter fruits in my stockpile. I can take them out. When the time comes, send someone to distribute them to the people in the shanty town on Shiluo Street. There were many incidents of smashing and looting on Shiluo Street. It was all because refugees from the outer city had gathered there. In the end, it was all because of the lack of food. Mo Lien was slightly taken aback. She shook her head and said, "There's no need for you to open up your personal stockpile. I'll take care of this kind of livelihood problem." He definitely had to leave his wife's money for his wife. How could he use her personal stash? Arbor was silent for half a second. The stockpile is almost full. You can just take it and distribute it. It's useless even if I store so much. Her stockpile of peaches was about to burst. Who the hell would still store winter fruits? After returning from the small banquet that day, our dear Xiao Mu had the sapling plant 50 winter fruit trees. Because this winter fruit could be planted even in a world of ice and snow, there were no suitable conditions for planting it. Planting it in a paradise was simply a waste of talent. In addition, Qiuqiu had specially cultivated the little tree and used some unknown method to accelerate its growth. In less than 2 days, Qiuqiu had actually harvested several batches of the 50 winter fruit trees. The fruits piled up to the height of a small hill on the ground. It was really annoying to look at. It's delicious. I'm not lying. Why don't you try it? Since she took it out to give to the victims, it was naturally something good. She would not cheat those poor civilians. The two men, Cough, cough, cough. Duanyu drank a mouthful of tea to calm his nerves before grabbing a winter fruit in passing. Jojo, it's fine if you say that in front of us, but you mustn't say that to other people. Why? You'll be beaten to death. Everyone else is rushing about for food, but you're worrying that the storehouse can't hold the food anymore. How can you endure this? Arbor nodded honestly and asked casually, "Is it delicious?" He saw his sister-in-law's 2 little heads nodding furiously. So bad, so bad. Sister. Give me some more. This winter fruit tasted completely different from other stores' winter fruits. It was sweet and refreshing, and the flesh was so crispy that one almost had to swallow their tongue. Arbor speechlessly glanced at the 2 foodies. Even something as ordinary as winter fruit was delicious. Helpless, he took out a lot more and had the 2 gluttonous little fellows store it in their storage talismans. Duanyu lamented with a smile, "The taste is indeed not bad. Compared to ordinary winter fruits, it's sweet but not greasy, and the flesh is very crispy." Chapter 656. That's good. I'll put these winter fruits into talismans for you later. Take them to Shiluo Street's Shed District and distribute them, Arbor said to Mo Lien. Mo Lien's heart naturally softened. She only felt that her wifey was incredibly considerate. Who said that his wifey was fierce? Look at how soft and gentle her heart was. Of course, this matter still needed to be discussed with the Ministry of Revenue. Merely providing financial assistance wouldn't solve the fundamental problem. The main thing was to make the young and strong work and distribute according to their work so that they would get what they worked for. Mo Lien temporarily suppressed these chaotic state affairs and pointed outside the window. That person is the owner of the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron. Xiao Mu hastily raised her small head to look down the window. They were all sitting by the window, and Xiao Xin even eagerly climbed onto the soft brocade on the windowsill. He propped up his chin and looked down. There's no cauldron, sister. Since that cauldron is unusual, it should be able to change in size, Arbor casually muttered. However, Duan Yu scoffed. Don't be in such a hurry. Look, it can still change in size. It'll be out soon. Sure enough, it wasn't long before 3 to 5 burly men walked out, heaving a gigantic 3-legged copper cauldron that was more than 2 meters tall. Arbor, the cauldron's body was inscribed with a very imposing 9-star design, with a crescent moon hanging high in the middle. It looked quite authentic. But it was so big. It looked like a fake. Mo Lian's mouth also twitched. Are you sure this is the legendary 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron? It couldn't be a knockoff, right? This person went to great lengths to take it out to sell every day. With so many witnesses, could it be that he still dares to take out a fake? Duan Yu asked with wide eyes. Arbor pursed her lips. She felt that this cauldron was far from the exquisite and beautiful appearance she had in mind. This cauldron wasn't even as small and portable as her stew pot. Moreover, no one has subdued this cauldron before. If I can take it for my own use, who knows, I might be able to change its size at will. Duan Yu harumphed. Mo Lian held her teacup and nodded. That makes sense. Get out of the way, get out of the way. A series of noises came from the entrance of the pill house. 2 rows of guards escorted the 3 of them over. Arbor recognized the person walking in the middle. It was the old-fashioned girl from the alchemy guild that he had met in front of the elixir house. He looked to be in his early 20s and had a tall and slender figure. However, his face had always been taut and was rather stern and old-fashioned. The 2 people next to him seemed to be over 40 years old. They should be important figures in the alchemy guild. Master Hong, this way please. The old-fashioned girl stretched out her hand and led a middle-aged man in his 40s to the red copper cauldron. Beside the red copper cauldron stood an old man. His back was slightly hunched, and his eyes were slightly sluggish as he looked at the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man, Master Hong, glanced at the old man before his gaze landed on the red copper cauldron. He carefully sized it up and even touched it a few times. He then sneered, "What kind of material is this cauldron made of? You actually dare to carelessly pass it off as some 9 stars mirroring the moon." The old man's eyes instantly widened, and he rolled his eyes. If this cauldron isn't the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron, this old man will be struck by lightning. I will die without a burial place. Master Hong's face darkened. You think I will believe you just because you say that? This old man isn't asking you to buy it. If you don't believe me, please leave. Master Hong harumphed. Chapter 657. His figure suddenly exploded, and he punched the red copper cauldron. The old man's eyelids didn't even twitch, but the cauldron didn't move at all. Master Hong, on the other hand, was knocked back several steps by the recoil. His eyes stared at the cauldron with some hesitation. Old Hong. The other middle-aged man from the Pill Guild frowned slightly and called out to him. At this moment, a plain voice suddenly floated down from the 3rd floor of the Morning Cloud restaurant. Her small hand pressed against the cauldron, and she said indifferently, "Can a level 11 mystic breakthrough pill and a stasis dispersing pill be exchanged for this cauldron? Here. Take a look." Without saying a word, he handed a small box to the old man. The old man's eyelids rolled slightly, and his eyes lit up as he received the box with both hands. He looked up at the little girl floating over and couldn't help but be secretly shocked. What a young little girl. Could it be that she became a pill master at such a young age? Question mark. The old-fashioned girl glanced at Arbor a few more times, and asked hesitantly, "It's you?" Although they had met in a hurry that night, she had always remembered the little girl who might be able to refine pills with purple veins. Although the little girl in front of her looked very different from that night, her eyes left a deep impression. Arbor nodded at the girl in a very friendly manner. Master Hong, on the other hand, shouted angrily at the top of his voice, "Miss! Aren't you being a little too unkind by interfering like this?" Arbor glanced at that person and didn't say anything. He looked at the old man. "How is it?" The old man had already quickly checked the pills in the box. There was a level 11 mystic breaking pill and a blood stasis dispersing pill. There was not a single difference between the two pills. Both of them were high-grade purple-veined pills. The quality of their refinement was of the highest quality that had never been seen before. The old man's gaze was slightly agitated. "And, may I ask who refined this high-grade pill with purple veins?" This old man looked at its appearance and heard that its color was extremely good. In this capital city, there aren't many people who can refine pills of such quality. Arbor interrupted the old man's excited words. He didn't say anything else, and only glanced at the old man indifferently. "Then it's a deal. I'll take the cauldron now." The old man naturally kept his mouth shut and nodded his head excitedly. "Wait a minute." Master Hong's face was full of anger. He stepped forward and reached out to press the medicine cauldron. Arbor's eyes turned cold. He instantly flew up and slapped away Master Hong's palm. His small hand grabbed the medicine cauldron and lifted it up abruptly. The surrounding onlookers were all dumbfounded and tongue-tied. Under a giant cauldron that was more than 2 meters tall, a slim little girl raised the cauldron with only 2 fingers and stared coldly at Master Hong of the Alchemy Guild. "I don't like other people touching my things," Arbor said coldly, but she saw Master Hong's face change greatly and rushed towards her. "Wait! I also want to buy this cauldron." Arbor snorted coldly. His body leaped lightly and directly jumped into the air. He reached out his hand and patted the medicine cauldron neither lightly nor heavily. A wisp of profound energy was suddenly injected into it. The medicine cauldron exploded with a colorful light in the air. In just a moment, it disappeared in front of everyone. Master Hong was so angry that he almost vomited blood on the spot. Time is fleeting. It's your lack of foresight that doesn't know how to grasp the present." Arbor coldly threw his words at him, making people feel stifled. She didn't even look at Master Hong and went straight back to the restaurant. "See you tomorrow." "Oh, I've adjusted the time to daytime." Chapter 658. On the other end, Duan Yu and Mo Lian had just finished half a cup of tea. When they saw the little girl bouncing back from the window, they couldn't help but chuckle. "Where's the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron? Summon it out for us to see." Arbor beckoned with her hand, and a palm-sized red copper cauldron flew out of her conches and landed on the table in front of them. "TSK, it really is a weapon whose grade can't be determined." Mo Lian sighed softly before taking the red copper cauldron and examining it carefully. Only one of the 9 stars mirroring the moon pattern on this red copper cauldron emitted a stream of light, but it made the cauldron's body look very beautiful. Duan Yu also took it for a look, but he ultimately couldn't discern anything. He merely shook his head and said, "I also can't determine its grade." Arbor tilted her head with a bit of pride on her face. "Jojo is very decisive and has excellent judgment." When she saw that Master Hong's palm strike on the cauldron didn't even budge it in the slightest, she knew that this item must be extraordinary. Even if it can't be used to refine medicine in the future, it'll be good to take it out to block someone's attack at a critical moment. When she thought of this, the little fellow couldn't help but be exhilarated. "Duan Yu, try hitting it. Right now." Duan Yu's eyes widened. Arbor nodded repeatedly. "Try." Let's not. If I break it, where am I supposed to compensate you with a handy cauldron? Just hit it if I tell you to. Arbor spat out mystic energy, and the cauldron grew in size. She firmly grabbed one of the cauldron's legs and lifted it into the air. The little fellow sat there motionless like a mountain and blinked at him as she shouted, "Come quickly. Then you have to be careful." Duan Yu made a hand gesture, and a defensive boundary was set up around the little fellow. Subsequently, a dense mystic energy pounced and heavily slammed into the cauldron from top to bottom. However, the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron remained motionless. Arbor's small hand was slightly numb from the shock of Duan Yu's mystic energy. He quickly recalled the small cauldron into his conscious and massaged his aching wrist. When Mo Lian saw this, she quickly grabbed Duan Yu's petite hand and rubbed it. She grumpily glared at Duan Yu and reprimanded, "You didn't know how to control your strength." Duan Yu was also anxious. He stood up and walked to Arbor's side. "Jojo, did I hurt you?" "No." Arbor shook his head. "It's just a little shaky." "Duan Yu, how much mystic energy did you use earlier?" "I've already used 30% of my profound strength." He was wrong, he should have only used 10%. Arbor. Get the hell out of here. The little fellow stretched out her little foot and stomped on Duan Yu's foot in a huff with a look of disdain. Scram scram. He had only used 30% of his profound energy and it was enough to make her wrist hurt. How infuriating. Is Jojo mad at me? Duan Yu actually turned to look at Mo Lian, who was chuckling on the side. Mo Lian glanced at him as though she didn't see him. She then carried Arbor over and continued to massage her petite wrist. She even instigated, "Don't be good friends with Duan Yu in the future. It's simply baffling, using 30% of your strength to hurt our Jojo." That was right. It was better not to have any friends. Arbor nodded. Duan Yu. Jojo. Duan Yu hastily expressed his stance and coughed lightly. "Although I'm only slightly better than you in terms of cultivation, think about it. You know how to refine pills and draw talismans, but I'm completely clueless about both. So you're still the formidable one, right?" Arbor glanced at him and pondered for a moment before nodding. She felt that Duan Yu was completely right. Chapter 659. Mo Lian whispered into her ear, "Darling, you might have really picked up a treasure this time. This medicinal cauldron could even block 30% of Duan Yu's attack without any fear, and the cauldron's body didn't even flinch. I reckon it's completely fine as a defensive shield in a critical moment." See, that was what she was thinking. Arbor reached out and patted Mo Lian's shoulder, giving her a "great minds think alike" expression. Her thoughts always coincided with Mo Lian's, making her feel that classmate Mo Lian was perhaps the person who understood her the most in the entire world. Even if this medicinal cauldron wasn't a vessel that could be used to refine medicine, it wasn't a loss for her to exchange 2 pills for a defensive shield. Seeing her adorable expression, Mo Lian couldn't resist pinching her ears. Before she could say anything, she heard the door to the room being kicked open with a bang. The door panel bounced back violently, almost hitting the person who kicked the door open in the face. The old-fashioned girl followed Master Hong in awkwardly and glanced at Arbor apologetically. "Sorry for disturbing everyone. Old Hong." Another man in his 40s from the Pill Union frowned and looked at Master Hong, whose behavior was out of line, with disapproval. They had indeed rushed here to exchange for the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron after receiving Chen Huron's news. However, it was old Hong who didn't believe in someone else's medicinal cauldron in the first place and lost the initiative, allowing the little girl to obtain it. There was no right or wrong in this matter. Old Hong appeared too overbearing by refusing to let go of the little girl like this. The old-fashioned girl, Chen Huiran, also looked at Master Hong in displeasure. Master Hong, quickly leave with us. Forcefully barging into someone else's room truly made her feel humiliated. No way. What use does a little girl like her have for that 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron? Didn't she take it because she found the medicinal cauldron fun? Master Hong said unreasonably, moreover, we were the ones who took a fancy to that cauldron first. How can we let others benefit from it? Could it be that our pill union is afraid of a few mere youngsters? You. Chen Huron's long, shapely eyebrows furrowed as her face tightened. She suddenly flung her sleeves and retreated to the side. Simply unreasonable. Grandmaster Hua, I won't interfere in this matter. Let him be. Bang! Master Hong took out a small box from his bosom and heavily placed it on the table. Here are 2 level 11 mystic breaking pills and 1 blood stasis dispersing pill. Take it as a bargain for you. Hand over the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron. Inside the room, Jolin and Jolin opened their mouths slightly. They looked at the middle-aged man who had suddenly barged into the room and spoke very impolitely. Mo Lien and Duan Yu continued to drink their tea. They merely glanced indifferently at that idiot who barged in but didn't say anything. A moment later, the people who were gathered in front of the pill house and discussing heatedly turned their heads to take a look when they heard the sound. Master Hong, who had just aggressively gone upstairs to pick a fight, was kicked out of the restaurant by someone. At this time, he was lying flat on the street. A small box was thrown out of the window on the 3rd floor and directly smashed into Master Hong's old face. It bounced a bit before falling to the ground. The box opened, and 2 to 3 pills the size of date pits rolled out from within. An icy voice drifted into the ears of everyone on the street. I would be embarrassed to even gift pills of this quality to a beggar. You should keep them for yourself to slowly eat. Chapter 660. Little Miss, you. Master Hua, who had followed Arbor's group from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor's lobby, was fuming. This was really not giving him any face at all. This girl directly threw one of their Pill Alliance's great masters out of the restaurant onto the street. She made their Pill Alliance's Master Hua fall on his back in full view of everyone, making a spectacularly humiliating fool of himself. Although Old Hong's actions were truly out of line, but that was their Pill Alliance. No one had ever disrespected their Pill Alliance like this. Arbor's group walked out of the restaurant without looking sideways and directly boarded the carriage. Mo Lien and Duan Yu glanced at the little fellow's displeased expression and silently stifled their laughter in their hearts. The 2 of them understood the little girl too well. The little girl was probably still quite angry right now. Someone had inexplicably forced her to buy and sell, so she would definitely be very unhappy. Was the little girl someone who lacked medicinal pills? She was too blind. Go to the Marquis's estate first. Mo Lien coughed lightly. The carriage driver immediately responded and flicked his whip, driving the carriage towards the Marquis of Jiyuan's estate. Master Hua still wanted to go up and reason with Arbor's group, but he was stopped by Chen Huiran. Huiran, why are you stopping me? I have to reason with that girl. Look at this, she's blowing up the matter. She's simply a newborn calf that isn't afraid of a tiger, completely disregarding our Pill Alliance. Master Hua was so angry that his face was flushed red. What do you want to reason with? Chen Huiran pulled a long face and bluntly said, the little girl obtained the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron with her own ability. Our Pill Alliance had to bully others and force a sale to snatch the medicinal cauldron back from the little girl's hands. Is this honorable if word of it gets out? Does it make the Pill Alliance proud? You. Master Hua was momentarily at a loss for words. He flung his sleeves and turned his head away with a huff. At this time, the two medicine apprentices from Wuruan Pill House had already helped the disgraced Master Hong up and walked to Chen Huiran and Duan Yu's side. Master Hong's old face flushed red. His lips trembled as he said resentfully, "I will not let this matter go." Whether it was in his family or in the Alchemy Guild, Hong Qing was a well-known figure. Who wouldn't salute him respectfully and call him Master Hong when they saw him outside? But it was such an unknown little girl who actually dared to talk nonsense to him and criticized his medicinal pills as worthless. He even said that even gifting it to a beggar was not good enough. It was simply infuriating. Chen Huiran sneered and said to Master Hua, "Master Hua, I will return to the Alchemy Guild first." Hong Qing angrily glared at Chen Huiran's back as she left. He turned to Hua Feng and said, "Master Hua, look at her attitude. You're just a mere mid-level alchemist in the Pill Alliance. How dare you be so rude to me, a high-level alchemist?" Hua Feng persuaded Hong Qing and pulled him back because he felt that many people were looking at them on the street right now, which made him feel even more humiliated. However, a seed of hatred was planted in Hong Chang's heart. He felt that the stoic-faced little girl had trampled all over his dignity today. He would definitely seek revenge for such an insult in the future. After returning home from Arbor, she bid farewell to Mo Lian and Duan Yu and directly sent her two younger siblings back to their respective courts. She didn't take such a trivial matter to heart. After returning to Nanzhu Garden, she had long tossed that miscellaneous person beyond the highest heavens. Chapter 661. When she woke up the next day, Xiaoyao walked in with a big smile on her face, holding a small box in her hand. "Miss, Xiao Yi came by just now. He received Lord's orders and said he wanted to give you something." The little fellow had just finished washing up. Hearing this, she stretched out her hand and gave a small yawn. She nodded and said, "What is it?" "Finish the porridge first and fill your stomach. You can have lunch later." Xiaoyao handed her a small bowl of red date porridge and said with a smile. "Xiaoyao, you were guarding outside the whole night?" "Yes, Mississippi." Xiaoyao nodded her head and took a small box and placed it on the table. "Don't guard tonight, go to sleep. What danger can there be in your own home?" Arbor put down the bowl that she had eaten 2 mouthfuls of porridge and took the small box that Xiaoyao had placed on the table. Opening it, her eyes slightly flashed. Inside the small box, there was a vermilion pill that was neatly placed. The pill veins were purple and the pill body was floating with extraordinary splendor. This beautifying pill is indeed a good thing. Arbor reached out her hand and stroked it. If she directly added something to it, it would be too much of a waste of this pill. How about Arbor pursed her lips and thought of another plan. With a "paw" sound, she closed the lid of the box and handed the small box back to Xiaoyao. "Xiaoyao, give this beautifying pill to my mother for her to consume. Later, I'll make another one for myself." Originally, she wanted to directly tamper with this beautifying pill and then give it to that Consort Jing to enjoy. But now, she changed her mind. Humph, such a good thing, naturally she couldn't let that woman take advantage of it. It was just right to show filial piety to her own mother. "Yes, Mississippi." "Xiaoyao will go now and be back soon." Xiaoyao chuckled, took the small box and quickly walked out the door. Arbor continued to drink a few mouthfuls of red date porridge. With a move of her profound sense, the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron abruptly jumped out of her conscious and steadily landed on the floor of the room. In an instant, it grew to the height of half a person. Arbor recited the names of a few more medicinal herbs and had Chocho deliver them to her. After she finished eating the porridge, she slowly began to process the few medicinal herbs on hand. After removing the dregs, only the essence of the herb was left. Arbor tossed it into the cauldron, and the cauldron immediately changed. The red cauldron flame ignited on its own, and the red copper cauldron instantly became transparent. The medicinal cauldron slowly rotated, and the star on the cauldron that was emitting a stream of light suddenly lit up. This beautifying pill that she had added a touch of the pure heat poison nether star seed should taste extremely good. Arbor supported his chin with one hand and glanced at the cauldron. He couldn't help but curl his lips in satisfaction. This cauldron normally looked very unremarkable, but unexpectedly, it was very beautiful when refining pills. The entire red copper cauldron had become transparent, and she could even clearly see the style of the fire control inside the cauldron. The fire control was very perfect, and the cauldron automatically made an accurate judgment based on the degree of burning of the herbs. This meant that she didn't need to constantly watch from the side and constantly control the fire, saving her a lot of time and energy. Miss Chiao was a bit happy. Sure enough, a good cauldron was twice the result with half the effort on the path of refining pills. With such a comparison, her set of lousy medicine refining tools could really be thrown to the back of her mind. Miss Chiao leisurely walked to the small table beside the bed and sat down. She took out a pure white jade communication tablet from her inner world and drew a few strokes on it with a talisman brush. In a flash, both the hidden pavilion and the night pavilion received a message from their mistress. Spread the news that Morning Sunlight Pavilion will publicly auction the exceptional beautifying pill in 3 days. Chapter 662. Ding. A faint sound came from inside the cauldron. From the moment the herbs were put in to the moment the pill was formed, Arbor didn't even need to poke a finger. It was also because this beautifying pill was only a high-grade pill that Arbor didn't need to use mystic energy to increase the heat. In half a cup of tea's time, the pills were formed. This kind of speed made Miss Chiao very satisfied. With a sweep of her sleeve, a faint fragrance followed the 2 pills that jumped out of the cauldron, assailing her nostrils. As soon as Wei Ziqin stepped through the door, she took a deep breath of the fragrance. With a flushed face, she cried out in pleasant surprise, "Daughter! You're refining pills. Did mother disturb you?" Arbor couldn't help but want to facepalm. She always felt that her mother was unusually happy that she could refine pills. "Mother, I've already finished refining." Arbor directly recalled the 9 stars mirroring the moon cauldron, which had extinguished its own cauldron fire, into her conscious. She put the 2 beautifying pills that had just come out of the cauldron and added ingredients into 2 exquisite wooden boxes. TSK, she only wanted to make 1 beautifying pill with added ingredients. She didn't expect the cauldron to make 2 for her. Wei Ziqin hurriedly jogged over and took one of the wooden boxes to look at it happily. Her mouth kept muttering, "Daughter, this pill is really well refined." Looking at this pill, it was sparkling white and translucent, small and exquisite. There was a faint purple pattern on the pill's body that flickered with light. As an amateur, she felt very happy looking at it. "Mother." Arbor helplessly helped her mother to sit down. In passing, she took the wooden box from her mother's hands and put it together with the other wooden box into her inner world, so as to prevent it from being carelessly placed and accidentally eaten. "Jojo, this beautifying pill that you gave mother, why don't you keep it for yourself?" Wei Ziqin took out a small box from her pocket and said, "Mother is already so old, what need is there for beautifying? Mother, look, I can refine it myself. Those 2 pills just now were both beautifying pills. You can have as many as you want. This pill is for you to eat, so hurry and consume it. It's also beneficial to your body." Xiao Mu poured a cup of tea while urging her mother to consume it. Wei Ziqin chuckled as she glanced at her daughter. Then, she complied and swallowed the beautifying pill. "Mother, the effect of this beautifying pill is somewhat similar to the gradual improvement of a person's appearance. The effect is not immediate. But slowly, after a month, 2 months, 3 months, you'll realize that your white hair is gone, and the fine wrinkles on your temples will also disappear. Your skin will become smoother, and your body will also have strength. Xiao Mu held her mother's arm, and the mother and daughter pair chatted merrily for a while. Wei Ziqin laughed heartily at her daughter's teasing. She poked her daughter's forehead and said, "You mischievous girl, you just like to cajole your mother." When the mother and son were in a good mood. On the other side, in State Uncle Zhang's estate, Xing Chao was currently throwing a fit at second manager Qi. "What are you doing? How did the meat that was about to be in our hands fly away?" A middle-aged man with a slightly pointed chin and a goatee wearing a cyan brocade robe paced back and forth in the living room with his hands clasped behind his back. Second manager Qi sprawled on the ground and said meekly and pitifully, "This subordinate also doesn't know how this happened. This subordinate just brought people to that merchant overnight, but they were all in vain. Later, when I asked around in the neighborhood, I found out that the merchant had already moved out overnight and even sold the beautifying pill to Morning Sunlight Pavilion." Xing Chao went up and gave second manager Qi a kick. "Useless dog slave. Tell me yourself, how are you going to explain this to Consort Jing?" Chapter 663. This wretched servant, he didn't even settle the matter properly and was eager to claim credit in front of Consort Jing. Otherwise, there would still be room for negotiation. Second manager Qi hastily said with a bitter expression, "Her Majesty already knows about the beautifying pill. We must get the beautifying pill for her no matter what." Xing Chao's heart ached at the thought of going to Morning Sunlight Pavilion to bid for it at a high price. A few deep wrinkles appeared on his forehead, and Xing Chao's voice turned cold as he said, "What can a mere Morning Sunlight Pavilion do if I insist on them handing over the beautifying pill?" Second manager Qi shuddered violently, and the cold sweat on his head fell with a splash. "Master, you absolutely can't do this. This servant heard that Morning Sunlight Pavilion's backer is extremely powerful. Do you still remember 2 years ago when the Hong Estate's concubine's son caused trouble at Morning Sunlight Pavilion and was chased out with a broken leg? That Hong Estate's concubine's son was beaten for nothing, and the Hong Estate couldn't get justice at all. It said that the concubine's son is still half paralyzed even now. The other party can even touch a century-old Hong Estate, not to mention an aristocratic family like ours that has just established a foothold in the capital." Second manager Qi hastily mediated. Xing Chao's brows furrowed tightly. He had also heard about this matter. That old madam of the Hong Estate was said to be the sister of the current Empress Dowager. The entire Hong Estate was related to the Empress Dowager by marriage, yet they dared to make a move at Morning Sunlight Pavilion and let people come in and out without being able to find fault with them. Such a powerful force indeed couldn't be easily provoked. Sigh. Xing Chao sighed, feeling somewhat defeated. "Qi Ming, this beautifying pill, no matter the price, we have to get our hands on it before we talk about anything else. Sister has been demoted to consort, so she must be in a bad mood recently. If we choose to go against her wishes at this juncture, our Jing estate will definitely be blamed as well." Xing Chao understood this sister of his very well. If they went against her wishes in this matter, she would definitely remember it. She was a scheming person, and who knew when she would be promoted to consort again. After all, the great king had doted on his sister greatly all these years. How could old feelings be broken so quickly? Let the manner calculate how many profound stones we can use. It's said that Morning Sunlight Pavilion also collects rare-colored glass gems. If you don't have enough magnetite, you can add on some amber-colored glass. Let's see if Morning Sunlight Pavilion will accept it. It's said that the Imperial Court wants to create a kind of profound coin for circulation. It's made from profound stone, so maybe it'll be more convenient for transactions in the future. Zheng Chao sighed again. If you really can't do it, you can go to the rooms of the various young ladies and young masters and see if there are any profound armaments that you can sell to Morning Sunlight Pavilion at a discount. Hopefully, it won't come to that. A small beauty pill shouldn't have a sky-high price. He just hoped that the day of the auction would go smoothly and that there wouldn't be so many people fighting over this beauty pill with them. The more Zheng Chao thought about it, the more upset he felt. He simply flung his sleeves and threw this matter to second manager Qi to handle while he went out to find his concubine to relieve his boredom. Qi Ming scowled miserably and ran to the senior manager to ask for money, only to be berated by the senior manager. The Zheng estate situation had been terrible for the past 2 years. Especially after the zombie outbreak, the estate's income was barely enough to make ends meet. Relying on the old master's meager salary from the imperial court, it was not enough to support the operation of the estate. In addition, there were many people in the Zheng estate, including all sorts of concubine-born children. Other than 6th young master, all of them were gluttonous and lazy. It was over. Chapter 664. Qi Ming followed the senior manager to the accounts room. After settling the accounts, there really weren't many magnetite available in the estate that could be used. There were only a dozen or so pieces of high-grade magnetite and about 100 pieces of mid-grade magnetite. With the addition of a box of colored glass gems, Qi Ming's confidence was lacking, so he could only report this matter to Zheng Chao. Zheng Chao's one sentence caused chaos in the concubines' rooms. Things like the 5th young master was going to hang himself after stealing the 5th young master's mystic weapon, and the 3rd young miss was going to commit suicide after taking the 3rd young miss's private jewelry. Zheng Chao was infuriated by the series of minor incidents that happened in the Zheng estate over the past 3 days. He ordered that anyone who continued to cause trouble would be kicked out of the Zheng estate. After the pressure was suppressed, although the entire Zheng estate was silent, those concubines and young misses were secretly wiping their tears in their own courtyards all day long. Each and every one of them cried to the heavens and the earth, saying that they couldn't live anymore and that in the future, they would have to beg for food on the streets and so on. This caused the servants in the estate to secretly laugh as they watched the good show of their masters. Zheng Chao spent the past 3 days in this vexed state until Morning Sunlight Pavilion's auction today. He decided to bring second manager Qi with him to personally make a trip there. This was called cutting off all means of retreat and sinking all boats. He was determined to obtain the beautifying pill no matter what. He was already so miserable. If he still couldn't obtain the beautifying pill and curry favor with his sister, his future days would probably be even more miserable than they were now. Morning Sunlight Pavilion's auction date was always set at the beginning of the month. However, this time, it was a special auction for the precious beautifying pill, so the time was a bit arbitrary and it was set at noon. It had to be said that this beautifying pill was really quite popular. All the noble ladies in the capital had sent people to inquire about it. Even if they didn't have the ability to bid for it, they still sent people to participate in this grand auction today. Zheng Chao entered the auction house with second manager Qi and his eyelids couldn't help but twitch when he saw the hall full of people. Fuck, so many people. They couldn't all be here for the beautifying pill, right? Inside the exclusive luxurious private room on the 2nd floor, Arbor had already run over with his 2 younger siblings to occupy seats and watch the show. At this moment, the 3 siblings were chatting while munching on a small bag of melon seeds. Huifeng coughed lightly and said, "Crown Princess, the Jing clan's people have come." Arbor got up and walked to the window. He looked down and saw a middle-aged man with a goatee. He was wearing a green robe and had his hands behind his back as he walked up the stairs to the 2nd floor. "Have him go to the main hall." Arbor waved his small hand and turned to glance at Huifeng. The corner of Huifeng's mouth twitched, and he hastily turned to leave the private room to handle matters. Sister, why do you care where he sits? Only the three siblings were left in the private room. Xiao Lin muttered while cracking the sunflower seeds. Let him sit in the box on the second floor. How am I going to watch his expression change? Arbor snorted. Just wait and see. He's going to be so angry that he's going to vomit blood. The door to the private room suddenly opened, and Duan Yu and Mo Lian walked in one after another, followed by Situ Yi, who coughed lightly. Duan Yu raised his brows and asked with a chuckle, who was angered to the point of vomiting blood. Xing Chao. Arbor pulled her two younger siblings to the side and gave up a seat for the three people. Little junior sister, this is your true face. Situ Yi's praise immediately attracted Duan Yu's eye roll. Brother Situ, you were most likely guessing at the Qin estate that day, right? Of course not. Little junior sister is so distinctive. Who wouldn't recognize her stoic face? Chapter 665. Your senior brother Situ is spouting nonsense. Duan Yu turned to smile at Arbor. He just guessed it. Situ Yi waved his hand. Don't listen to Duan Yu's nonsense. Little junior sister, your expression has been the same for many years. I can see through it at a glance. Why would I need to guess? Arbor reflexively touched his small face and thought, looks like I have to pay attention when I disguise myself next time. It's best if I can make an expressive face so that I won't be exposed immediately. Mo Lian couldn't help raising her brows when she saw the little fellow's pensive expression. What are you thinking about with such a serious expression? You can't be thinking of making an expressive disguise face to fool me next time, right? Duan Yu. Xiao Mu immediately turned her head away guiltily and walked over to open the door and walk out on her own. The quarrel at the top of the stairs grew louder and louder. Xing Chao was blocked on the stairs with his hands behind his back, so he was so angry that his face was turning green. The manager of Morning Sunlight Pavilion's capital branch was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He had a smooth and affable face and was quite eloquent in his speech. With just a few words, he made Xing Chao, who was about to explode, gasp for breath. All of the private rooms upstairs have already been reserved. Others have already reserved them 3 days ago, so our Morning Sunlight Pavilion can't not play by the rules, right? The Song Estate second miss is also sitting in the main hall downstairs right now, so there's nothing we can do about it. It's just that too many people have come to participate in the auction this time. Xing Chao angrily flicked his sleeve. Let's go. Xing Chao angrily led second manager Qi downstairs. He wished for nothing more than to immediately leave Morning Sunlight Pavilion and swagger away. They actually dared to make him, State Uncle Zheng, sit in the main hall and fight over the beautifying pill with a bunch of commoners. When he, Xing Chao, went to other auction houses, which one of them didn't deferentially wait on him and give him the best treatment? Unlike this Morning Sunlight Pavilion, who actually dared to treat him like this. It was simply preposterous. Second manager Qi was so anxious that he was about to cry. Lord, if we leave now, what should we do about the beautifying pill? Xing Chao was taken aback before he angrily retorted, buy it elsewhere. But they're only selling it here. Preposterous. Xing Chao's footsteps stiffened slightly. He stiffened his neck and mechanically turned around, following the bowing second manager Qi as he swallowed his anger and walked toward the front row of the lobby. Yo, State Uncle Zheng, nice to meet you. A person in the front row suddenly stood up and bowed to him with a flattering expression. It's Hong Qing from the Hong clan. Xing Chao glanced at him, and the corners of his mouth twitched into a fake smile. Then, he sat down beside Hong Qing. Is Lord Xing here to purchase the beautifying pill for Her Highness Xing? Hong Ching said with a polite smile, I'm also here to take a look at this beautifying pill that has been rumored to be somewhat miraculous. Jing Chao recalled that Hong Ching was also a senior alchemist, and could not help but ask, Grandmaster Hong's alchemy skills are said to be extraordinary, I wonder if you can refine this beauty pill. Hong Ching said proudly, refining the beautifying pill is naturally not a problem. However, State Uncle Jing did not know that the herbs needed to refine the beautifying pill were extremely hard to find. In particular, a senior medicinal herb called the look-setting Ganoderma is practically extinct on our Seacombe planet. Hong Ching sighed and said, otherwise, if Lord Jing could find this look-setting Ganoderma, I would definitely be able to refine a senior medicinal herb for Her Highness Jing. Chapter 666. Jing Chao nearly couldn't hold back his temper and spat all over his face. If I could freaking find the exotic herbs for that look-fixing Ganoderma, would I need you to refine the beautifying pill for me? Do you think you're the only high-level pill refiner in the pill union? How rare. Arbor closed the door and expressionlessly said, Jing Chao is sitting with that nuisance from the pill union. Which nuisance? The one who stole my cauldron. Mo Lien stood up and walked to the window. She looked down and chuckled. This person is from the Hong clan. What Hong clan, Rolan clan, I don't care who he is. He stole my cauldron first, and now he's sitting with Jing Chao. Anyway, he's a nuisance. Arbor pursed his lips. The capital's 8 great patrician families. This Hong clan is one of them, Duan Yu said. What 8 great patrician families? Arbor asked offhandedly. The Talisman patrician family, the Mu clan, the Elixir patrician family, the Qin estate, and Duan Yu's concealed weapons patrician family, the Duan clan. Mo Lien continued, aside from them, there's also the Wu clan, the Hong clan, and... The little fellow had long lost her patience to listen to those 8 great patrician families and ran to the window to look around. Mo Lien couldn't help but chuckle and shut her mouth. Forget it, it didn't matter if she remembered them or not. She would talk about it when she encountered them in the future. It's starting. When Hui Feng came in, he had someone bring in some snacks for the 2 little foodies. He then changed the tea to a new round of hot tea before ordering everyone to withdraw. Everyone chatted as they ate while observing the auction below. Apart from the beautifying pill, there were naturally other mystic weapons, high-grade jewelry, and the like. The items that Jing Chao plundered from his concubine's children were also on the auction list. These items had all been sent to the auction house 2 days ago, so Mo Lien was naturally very clear about them. After a rough calculation, the total amount that Jing Chao could take out was only around 50 pieces of high-grade magnetite when converted into magnetite. However, this was still considered quite a fortune. Even in peacetime, one could be considered a nouveau riche if they could take out 50 or so pieces of high-grade magnetite at once, not to mention that it was just to buy a beautifying pill. Not long after, the steward of Morning Sunlight Pavilion's Beijing branch, Lu Yan, knocked on the door and entered with a smile while carrying a tray. Your Highness, State Uncle Zhang wants to bid for a 500-year-old snow ginseng. Let me see. Arbor stretched out his small hand, and Lu Yan hurriedly handed over the tray. Arbor lifted the cover on the tray and examined the 500-year-old snow ginseng in his hand. Then, in front of everyone, he openly confiscated it. Lu Yan's mouth was slightly agape as he turned to look at the crown prince, who had his hand on his forehead. Your Highness, your wife has gone too far. Very quickly, Chucho carved out an identical, 500-year-old snow ginseng and handed it over to her. All right, go and return it to him. He told him that there was no such rule in the auction house, and that the auction items would be decided 2 days in advance. How could there be any last-minute additions? Go and tell Jing Chao that we can't break the auction rules for him alone. Arbor spoke sternly and righteously. Lu Yan received the tray with a dazed expression and lowered his head to look at the snow ginseng. Crown Princess, this snow ginseng is. Is there a problem? No, no problem. It would be strange if there wasn't a problem. Didn't the Crown Princess confiscate the snow ginseng just now? Why did she return it so quickly? Our dear Crown Princess swept a disdainful glance at the snow ginseng. I'm not interested in this kind of 100-year-old trash. Go and return it to him. Yes, yes, yes. Chapter 667. After Steward Lu retreated, the private room was quiet. Her two sisters-in-law, 3 men, and 5 pairs of eyes stared at her without blinking. What is it? Arbor calmly returned their gaze. Whether it was the appearance or smell of the 500-year-old snow ginseng that Jojo gave Steward Lu, it was exactly the same as the one she'd confiscated earlier. But according to the little fellow's temperament, she wouldn't take something out of her inner world for no reason. Unless... Cough, may I ask what exactly is this 500-year-old snow ginseng that you exchanged with Sir Zhang? Duan Yu asked curiously. A tonic. The little fellow propped her chin on her hand and stood by the window, admiring Sir Zhang's gloomy expression when the snow ginseng was returned. Lu Yan, this guy, was especially reliable. He even specially returned the item to Jing Chao in front of everyone and strongly requested him to inspect it once to ensure that there were no mistakes before leaving with his men. This waiter was outstanding. Our dear Chao Mu pursed her lips and nodded approvingly. Ahem. Situ Yi pretended to take a sip of tea and asked, what tonic is it? White radish. It's especially good to eat in winter. Add some pork ribs to stew in a pot of soup and it's delicious. It's even more nutritious if it can be added to the dish with mutton, Arbor replied coolly. Pfft. Duan Yu was caught off guard and spat out his tea, coughing repeatedly as he choked. On the other hand, Situ Yi had just swallowed his tea, so he didn't spit it out. At this time, he was holding his teacup in exasperation as he stared fixedly at that child. Look at this scammer. She used a white radish to exchange for someone else's 500-year-old snow ginseng. Most importantly, she could actually make an identical, 500-year-old snow ginseng and exchange it in such a short time. Not everyone could do this. No wonder Jing Chao was also so miserably tricked and took back the snow ginseng without the slightest suspicion. After all, the appearance and smell were exactly the same, and it was done in such a short time. Who could tamper with it like the little fellow? Chio's control over plants could be said to be a heaven-defying fortune. Any plant in its hands could be moved horizontally or vertically, and it could do whatever it wanted with it. This caused the little fellow to feel somewhat puzzled for a while. What exactly was Chio? What a magical tree! As they spoke, the climax of the auction arrived. When the auctioneer showered the beautifying pill with extravagant praises and announced the start of the auction, the price of the profound stones skyrocketed. It was only when the price reached 30 pieces of high-grade magnetite did the price slow down a little. Only 3 families were left on the stage, competing with each other for the right to bid. One of them was Jing Chao, the other was the family of the recently risen He Jiaoyi, and the third was an old nanny sent by a wealthy family. The 3 of them were in a stalemate. He Jiaoyi's family only announced that they would give up when the bidding price broke through 40 pieces of high-grade magnetite. However, the old granny sat there calmly and continued to raise the price. 43 pieces of high-grade profound stones, 44 pieces, 45 pieces. Jing Chao felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles. He couldn't help but fidget in his seat as cold sweat trickled down his forehead. Seeing this, Hong Qing hurriedly said in order to curry favor with State Uncle Zheng, I saw that State Uncle was in a hurry to sell that snow ginseng of excellent quality, but the auction house didn't agree. How about this? I'll pay twice the market price to buy this snow ginseng from State Uncle. Chapter 668. The two immediately completed their private transaction. Hong Qing spent 24 pieces of high-grade magnetite to buy the white radish in Jing Chao's hand. Hong Qing had won State Uncle Zheng's favor. He spent some money to curry favor with State Uncle Zheng and also solve State Uncle Zheng's financial crisis. Both of them were very satisfied and became bosom buddies on the spot. Their conversation also became a little more casual. State Uncle Zheng had 78 pieces of high-grade magnetite in his hands now, so he was much more confident. He didn't even frown when he raised the bid and was rather forthright. When the bid reached 65 pieces of high-grade magnetite, the old nanny clearly paused. State Uncle Zheng sighed in relief and immediately called out in a loud voice, 68 pieces of high-grade magnetite. The entire venue was in an uproar. Everyone stared at this high-spirited State Uncle Zheng as if they were looking at a second-rate nouveau riche. As expected of the great king's brother-in-law. He was just so freaking extravagant. Look at how forthright he was when he raised the bid. 3 pieces at once. Everyone worshipped nouveau riche Xing, filling State Uncle Zheng's heart with arrogance. When the bid reached 70 pieces of high-grade magnetite, the old nanny finally gave in and fell silent. Everyone in the hall stood up and applauded enthusiastically. They cheered for State Uncle Zheng and loudly called out, State Uncle Zheng, State Uncle Zheng. State Uncle Zheng's heart was thumping as he responded to the melon-eating crowd with smiles in his eyes. The auctioneer even gave a speech excitedly and enthusiastically. The atmosphere was at its most enthusiastic for a moment. The auctioneer's small hammer hit the auction stage again and again as he shouted passionately, 70 pieces of high-grade magnetite, going once. 70 pieces of high-grade magnetite, going twice. 70 pieces. 71. Arbor, who was sitting by the second-floor window, shouted irritably while cracking melon seeds. His icy voice cut into the crowd's excited cheers and instantly drenched everyone from head to toe like a basin of bone-chilling water, chilling their hearts. Arbor snorted and thought, are you all a bunch of idiots? As for clapping and cheering for State Uncle Zheng, what does it have to do with you melon-eating crowd when he bought a beautifying pill? They even stood up and clapped their hands madly, loudly praising that idiot for having nothing better to do. Bam! State Uncle Zheng's legs went soft and he fell to the ground. Why? Oh heavens! It was not easy to get rid of that old nanny from who knows which mansion she came from, but where did this little fellow jump out and continue to bid? Pfft, ha 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 ha. Duan, you truly couldn't hold it in anymore. He laughed so hard that he collapsed on the armchair. Oh, you did it on purpose, didn't you? He purposely poured a basin of ice water at such an exciting moment. Ah ha 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 ha. He couldn't take it anymore. He was laughing so hard that tears were about to come out. Situi turned his face away. With one hand supporting his forehead, he laughed so hard that he slammed the table. On the other hand, Mo Lien calmly walked to Qiao Mu's side and pulled over a stool to sit beside the window with her. The auctioneer stared blankly for a few seconds before continuing to shout in a professional manner, 71 pieces of high-grade magnetite, going once. Number. Wait. 72. Under second manager Qi's sharp reminder, State Uncle Zheng finally recovered his wits and shouted again with a sullen face. 73, 74, 75, 76. Arbor continuously shouted. The melon-eating crowd all looked towards the second-floor window with dumbfounded expressions. However, they couldn't see Arbor's small face clearly from their angle. Chapter 669. State Uncle Zheng rubbed his hands anxiously and looked at his bosom friend, Hong Qing. How many magnetite do you have on you? Lend them all to me, and I'll return them to you later. Hong Qing was stupefied. He didn't expect that the 24 magnetite he sold to State Uncle Zheng for still wasn't enough for him to buy that beautifying pill. He wanted to refuse, but he was also afraid that State Uncle Zheng would bear a grudge against him. At this kind of life-and-death juncture, he had to put on a good performance. Hong Qing gritted his teeth and said, I can only take out another 15 pieces of high-grade magnetite at most. Give them all to me. I'll give the beautifying pill to Her Majesty later, and Her Majesty will definitely bestow rewards. Zheng Chao urged, take them all out right now. Hong Qing dug out all his assets as his heart bled. State Uncle Zheng staked everything on this one throw and stood up, shouting with a flushed face, 93 pieces of high-grade magnetite. 95. Arbor continued to bid. Hong Qing felt like the sky was about to collapse. Sure enough, State Uncle Zheng turned back and stared at him with bloodshot eyes. Hong Qing, you've helped me this time, so help me to the end. I'll definitely remember your kindness, and it won't be a problem for you to soar in the future. Hong Qing hesitated for a moment before steeling himself and saying, I only have 10 pieces of high-grade magnetite left. I really don't have any more. State Uncle Zheng also gritted his teeth and said angrily, 103 pieces of high-grade magnetite. If I still can't buy it, I won't buy it anymore. This time, the little fellow didn't make a sound and continued to crack her melon seeds. Are you sure those two have been squeezed dry? Seeing Hui Feng enter, the little fellow only raised her head slightly and asked. Hui Feng's mouth twitched. This subordinate guarantees that those two are so poor that they can pawn their pants. All right then. Arbor spread his small hands. Take these high-grade magnetite and distribute it to those who need it. Hui Feng was startled and quickly turned to look at the Crown Prince. Seeing the Crown Prince nod, Hui Feng's expression became abnormally excited all of a sudden. Yes. Thank you, Crown Princess, for your reward. 103 pieces of high-grade magnetite. Going thrice. Sold. Congratulations, congratulations, Lord Zheng. Congratulations on obtaining a beautifying pill. State Uncle Zheng sat there as if he had just lost a loved one. There was not the slightest bit of joy on his face that was twisted with anger. Right now, all he wanted to do was to take his things home, hug his blanket, and cry. For the sake of Her Highness Zheng's face, the entire Zheng estate had gone all out this time. State Uncle Zheng's hands trembled as he picked up the small box containing the beautifying pills. He abruptly raised his head and shot a torch-like gaze toward the window on the second floor. Right now, he really wanted to know who had jumped out to compete with him. Judging from the voice, it was definitely a young lady. Right now, he wanted to cut this girl into 1,000 pieces and put her to death. Unfortunately, the other party didn't show up, and he didn't want to stay here for even a second longer. After leaving Morning Sunlight Pavilion, State Uncle Zheng instructed the two subordinates behind him with a ferocious expression, you two stay here and keep an eye on her. If that woman from the private room on the second floor comes down, find a way to follow her home. This little bitch who dared to provoke him, he wanted her to pay the price. The two extremely vicious thugs from the Zheng estate nodded repeatedly in response. Unfortunately, they didn't see any lady come out from the door even when the lanterns were lit. Arbor had returned home early with his sister-in-law. He had already finished eating and was about to take a level 11 mystic breakthrough pill. Suddenly, he heard shuffling sounds from the door. I'll add more chapters today and tomorrow, but I'll add later. Chapter 670. The little fellow's hair stood on end, and a bad premonition slid through her heart. That rustling sound made her stare at the door vigilantly. As expected, she saw a white and soft little snake slithering in from the door. A pair of watery and round eyes looked at her adorably. The little snake carried an ugly floral cloth package and slithered around quickly. But before it could get close to the bed, it saw its little master jump up high. "Don't come over." Arbor stood on the bed with a blanket draped over her, and her eyes stared at the restless white snake defensively. The little white snake hurriedly shook its body and threw the floral cloth package on the ground. Then, it retreated a few steps and coiled itself up like a piece of dung. It looked at its little master pitifully. Arbor sat down with the blanket wrapped around her, and her face was stern and serious. "You're not allowed to sneak into my room in the middle of the night." The snake nodded its head pitifully, and the little white snake used its thin tail to poke the package on the floor. Arbor inexplicably felt that this little fellow was a little cute. Then, she subconsciously reached out and rubbed the goosebumps on her little paws. Cute your sister. She didn't even know if a cold snake was poisonous. How could it be cute? An illusion. It must be her own illusion. She mustn't be moved by that snake's pretending to be weak. Move away a little. Arbor jumped off the bed and waved her little hand at the snake. The little white snake rolled itself into a ball of white dough and rolled under the corner of the table. It stuck its little head out and looked at its little master with watery eyes. Arbor tentatively took 2 steps forward. Seeing that it didn't move, she was relieved and boldly took a few steps forward. Then, she squatted down in front of the floral cloth package. This time, the little white snake used the Cosmos treasure pouch to bring over a lot of medicinal herbs. Previously, when its little master was in a good mood when collecting medicinal herbs, it had left a deep impression on it. The little snake preliminarily confirmed that compared to gold, silver, and jewelry, its master seemed to like medicinal herbs more. Arbor also felt a little strange. He didn't know where the little snake had gotten so many different types of spirit flowers and plants. A very rare medicinal ingredient used to refine the beautifying pill, the look-setting Ganoderma, was also found for her by this snake. "You don't have to bring them back in the future," Arbor said casually as he tossed all the herbs in his Cosmos treasure pouch to Cho-Cho. When she turned around, she saw the little white snake looking at her aggrievedly like a little wife. Its eyes were about to burst into tears. Now, even bringing over herbs that Master liked was disdained. Sob sob sob. Arbor was baffled. He couldn't understand what little snake was trying to express with his resentful face. She only said calmly, "I have enough herbs for now. I don't know where you plucked them from, but after plucking so many of them, no matter how good the land is, it will eventually dry up. Let them grow well." The little white snake's resentful expression immediately disappeared, and it looked at Arbor with its pair of big, cute eyes. So the little master didn't dislike its herbs. Wasn't this cold-blooded snake's facial expression a little too rich? After Arbor finished collecting the herbs, she climbed onto the bed and raised her hand to yawn. "I'm going to rest." The little white snake rolled itself into an even smaller ball of dough and shrank under the cupboard. It had an "I won't disturb your rest" look on its face. Chapter 671. Arbor glanced at the snake and thought for a bit before walking down. She took a small basket covered in cotton wool and walked to the corner of the table. "Stay here and don't crawl around. You're not allowed to climb onto my bed." The little white snake nodded its head repeatedly and obediently moved its body. It curled up into a ball inside the small basket. Seeing that it was quite obedient, Arbor finally relaxed. She flipped onto the bed and pulled the covers over herself to sleep. The next morning, the first thing Arbor did when she woke up was to check on the snake. The little white snake obediently stayed in the small basket and didn't move at all. It was still in the same ball shape as yesterday. Seeing her look over, the little snake poked its head out of the basket. Arbor saw that it had stayed there the entire night without any signs of coming out. Her brows couldn't help but loosen a bit. This little snake wasn't as annoying as she had imagined. Mississippi Xiao Yao lifted the curtain and hurried in. She bowed and said, "Wu family's eldest Miss, Wu Xiaosu, requests an audience." Arbor had long forgotten about this person. Hearing this, she frowned and said, "I won't see her. I don't know her." Xiao Yao knew that her young mistress would react this way. She smiled and said, "Xiao Yao has already tactfully rejected Miss Wu and asked Miss Wu to return to the manor as soon as possible. It's a pity that Miss Wu won't listen to me. She's standing outside the Marquis's estate right now and won't leave no matter what." "Then let her be," Arbor said expressionlessly. "If someone likes to stand outside, then let her stand." Was she, Arbor, the kind of person who would hastily bring people in for the sake of the two families' reputation? The more she was threatened, the more she loathed it. If she wanted to embarrass herself, no one could stop her. She could stand outside as long as she wanted. "Where's Xiao Yi? Let him in. I want to ask him about yesterday's incident at the Jing estate." Arbor put the small basket on the table and met the little white snake's round eyes. Xiao Yao exclaimed, "Miss," a snake entered the room. Arbor looked at her in amusement. "This is my summoned beast." "Summoned beast?" Xiao Yao was a little surprised. That day, Miss summoned it in the garden. Then the summoning didn't fail. It's just that this little snake doesn't look mighty or ferocious at all. Will it be of use at a crucial moment? The little snake stared at Xiao Yao with its human-like eyes. "It's the one who's been giving me gifts for the past 2 days, Arbor said. Xiao Yao's eyes widened when she heard that. She raised her hand to show her height. "That red coral." "That's right, and the rest of the herbs were all given by it." Xiao Yao immediately looked at Lord Snake in worship, as if she was looking at a nouveau riche. "Then, miss, should I go prepare some frogs, mice, or something to feed the little snake?" Unexpectedly, the moment she said that, the little white snake immediately turned its little head proudly and disdainfully. Its pair of watery eyes looked pitifully at Arbor. Chiao Moon glanced at it and asked on a whim, "Do you want congee or not?" The little snake nodded its little head furiously. "What kind of snake is this? It doesn't eat living things but actually drinks porridge. It's so human-like." Xiao Yao muttered as she walked out and called in Xiao Yi, who was waiting outside the door. "Crown Princess." Xiao Yi bowed after entering the door. "What happened after yesterday?" Arbor asked curiously. State Uncle Jing sent the beautifying pill into the palace overnight and presented it to Her Highness Consort Jing. "I'll see you tomorrow, Bo." Chapter 672. Arbor nodded his little head in satisfaction. "Yung he must be very happy, right?" "That's right." Xiao Yi said. Consort Jing rewarded State Uncle Jing quite a bit on the spot, including fine jade, jewelry, gold, silver, and riches. However, the value of those things paled in comparison to the 103 high-grade magnetite that State Uncle Jing took out. Lord Jing could only suffer in silence, unable to voice out his bitterness, and returned to his residence listlessly. Arbor sneered. "Just let Yung He slowly enjoy that beautifying pill." When Xiao Yao returned with a bowl of porridge, Xiao Yi had already retreated as per the order. A light thud came from the window. Arbor didn't even turn his head as he stared at the little white snake whose head was almost buried in the bowl of porridge. This little snake was especially particular when it ate. After the entire bowl of millet porridge entered its mouth, it even raised its little head and used its eyes to signal Xiao Yao to take a white cloth from the side to wipe it. Xiao Yao muttered, "What the hell," as she hurriedly took a white cloth to wipe the snake's head. Arbor couldn't help but chuckle. The next second, she felt her body lighten, and she landed in a comfortable and warm embrace. "Jojo, I knocked on the window, but you ignored me," Mo Lien grumbled aggrievedly. "Even if I ignored you, didn't you still come in?" Arbor turned to shoot him a glance and poked his chest. "When are we leaving for Bailon?" "In 2 days, I guess." After I told Royal Father about this, he strongly objected. "I have to convince him." "What is he objecting for?" "You're not going to Bailon to play, you're going to inspect the food base. That's a serious matter that concerns the country and its people. He keeps you tied up in the palace all day and makes you represent him in state affairs. He really has it easy being this great king." Mo Lien chuckled softly. He reached out to cup his darling's little face and looked at her carefully. "Jojo, you're feeling sorry for your husband." Arbor rolled his eyes at him and poked him hard with his little finger. "We'll set off in 3 days at the latest." "All right." Mo Lien wrapped his arms around her waist and swayed her slender body. "I'll listen to you." His gaze met with the little white snake's round eyes. Mo Lien's expression changed slightly. Her hand shot out like lightning to grab the white snake. However, in the blink of an eye, the little white snake flashed through the air like a bolt of lightning. Its body suddenly shrunk to less than an inch, and it swiftly dodged Mo Lien's claw. "Ha!" Arbor's eyes widened slightly. This white snakelet could actually shrink into such a small form and successfully and swiftly evade Mo Lien's claw. "Master! There are bad guys here who want to catch me." The white snakelet twisted its body and swiftly flew towards Xiao Mu. Arbor instinctively shrunk her body and hurriedly hid her 2 little hands in Mo Lien's arms. In the blink of an eye, she saw the little white snake writhing its small body in the middle of pouncing on her. It suddenly stopped in mid-air and looked at her pitifully with tears in its eyes. Ah! Why did it feel like she had bullied a snake? But it was cold and crooked. It didn't feel good to the touch. She didn't want to touch it from the bottom of her heart. "Master," the little white snake's big, cute eyes actually started to tear up. "Arbor. You're a cold-blooded animal. Why are you like a human? You have 7 emotions and 6 desires and you can even cry." Mo Lien immediately looked warily at the stupid snake that was trying to act cute. With a tap of her finger, a bewitching red light shot toward the cold-blooded animal. The light was about to hit the little white snake's skin. Xiao Mu abruptly jumped up. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.